Well, that was a disaster of a start, but welcome everybody to Making Law Simple. My name is David Helm, a licensed practicing attorney in the state of Michigan, and you should be able to see me on Twitch, Facebook, and this time YouTube. Uh, StreamYard's been giving me an issue. It's not allowing me to stream to X for some reason. Um, I am delayed. That's not going to be annoying at all. My plan was to stream all the way straight through today and not take a lunch break. Uh, well, we'll see how that goes. But welcome, everybody. I see you all in the chat. I see Jamie. Hey, Joe. Bye, Franz, and all of you all. Welcome. Welcome. We haven't missed anything despite the late start. I know some of you are probably going to get lost getting over here, but we are still waiting on the court to start. We should have this is what's going on right now. So we should have some motion arguments this morning before we get going on anything. I turned the volume on it, but nothing is happening yet. But welcome, all welcome. Okay, if you wouldn't mind giving me just a moment while I get everything up and running again, because I don't know why YouTube didn't start. It started everywhere else. When I didn't select it to stream on X, which because it usually cancels out, and so I never bothered with it this time. And then it wouldn't start on YouTube. So I don't know. Morning, Jung. Just listening. Let's see. Tube guy looked just like you talking to himself. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, little pill. Yes. All right. Well, we are going to, this is take two. So hopefully everyone finds us over here. Aaron Hack with a 1999 super chat already with lunch money. Thank you very much. I appreciate the lunch money. I did end up going shopping this weekend. Oh, look at that. Now my stream is starting again. Now it's finally going. That's weird. Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and make that last one private. And it only lasted 4 minutes. So let's just go ahead and throw that in the private sector so that my shame is hidden forever. Josie, good morning. Hello, your Davidness. I like that. I'm going to go with that. What do I think is going to happen with this case? Well, I don't know. It's too soon to tell yet, Christine. I have my personal opinions on if I was sitting on the jury. Oh, McKinley. Yes. Well, you go have fun at court. It's what, 5 a.m. your time? And then we'll see you afterwards. We might have some guests popping in and out today. We might have, I don't think we're going to do a lunch break. This is this little delay thing that I've got going on right now. It's annoying, but I think I can live with it. So the plan is today is not to break at lunch and start up a new stream. The plan right now is currently just to stream all the way through. We'll see if I stick with that. I like my lunch breaks. All right, so let's just do an update for those of you who aren't aware of what's been going on with this case. Jennifer Crumbley is being charged with involuntary manslaughter in connection with her son, who shot and killed 4 people at Oxford High School on November 30th, 2021. The theory of the case is that Jennifer knew how dangerous her son was and failed to take reasonable, appropriate steps, which amounts to gross negligence, to protect society at large, or particularly the school students, from him. The evidence that we've seen so far, you can see my little review video I made the other day. It doesn't tend to show that she knew that something was going on, knew that he had a mental health issue, and disregarded it, which is what essentially the state is trying to say, that he suffers from a mental health illness, and Jennifer completely disregarded it, and therefore is criminally culpable in the school shooting that took place. I'm using all kinds of wonderful words that YouTube should be dinging me for, but they haven't been, so I'm going to keep using them. Because this case does involve a school shooting and does involve mental health and guns and all that stuff. But yeah, so there really hasn't been much. The opening statement was really focused on the opening statement from the state, really focused on the act of terror by that Ethan engaged in, Ethan Crumbley, the child. He showed pictures of the four victims, but nobody's disputing that. Nobody's disputing what Ethan did was a bad thing, that four people died, that other people were injured, that the firearm that was used was in fact purchased by James Crumbley, that the firearm was used by Jennifer Crumbley when she took her son to the shooting range. Nobody's disputing any of that, yet the state insisted on introducing it. That caused some drama with the defendant crying, which caused a huge fight in the not a huge fight, but sort of a cat fight, if you will, between defense counsel and the prosecutor regarding the defendant crying. And that's been sort of a theme carrying on, that the defense seems to be apologizing for her actions quite a bit when the prosecutor accuses her of doing something wrong. And I don't like that style. I don't think the defense attorney should be apologetic as much as she is. I'm not a huge fan of her style, but she did get a couple of good points across, particularly with regard to the videos that Ethan took of the firearm that he sent to a friend and said his dad left it out. And so he had what appeared to be unfettered access to it. But yet the state's own witness produced GPS data locations showing that James and Jennifer were at home at the time that video was taken, seemingly to say, well, they're at home. So then he doesn't have unfettered access to it. They're around. So a lot of good points like that have been addressed by the defense on cross. It's just been a little muddy in their attempts to do it. Good morning, Farrell. I thought you'd be sleeping by now. But hello. Happy birthday, belated birthday yesterday. I did send a message. Did Baker get it to you? I hope. Let's see. Honestly, it seems like she cared about her kid and also her horses. Yeah, so that's the thing. So her horses had mud scratching, apparently is what it's called. My horse has it too right now, actually. So it sores on their feet that they have to be dressed every day. And so there were some text messages introduced that she was dealing with that on and around the days of the shooting. There were text messages from Ethan back in March to his mom about seeing demons or ghosts in the house, while at the same time, Jennifer and James are at their horses. But again, no indication that they even received those text messages or anything like that. But there are also a lot of text messages regarding Ethan between James and Jennifer. How is he doing? Did you check on him? Did you give him his medication? Things like that. So there are text messages that go both ways that show that they cared about Ethan. And there's text messages that show that they cared about their horses. I don't really think that that's the be all end all. What I suspect we're going to probably get into today is probably Ethan's journals. I have to imagine we're going to get into Ethan's journals, but I'm not sure. Those are still yet to come in. What's the minimum level of bad parent behavior where you would be comfortable with an involuntary manslaughter conviction? What is the minimal level? None. If we're talking about the intentional wrongful acts of a child, because that's what we're talking about, right? You could be a shit parent and raise a shitty kid, and that's not illegal. It's not illegal to raise a shitty kid. At the end of the day, people have to be accountable for their own actions. And so the child's actions, he needs to be accountable for. And so, charge him with child neglect, which is a form of child abuse, contributing to the delinquency of a minor, things like that. But criminal responsibility for the intentional wrongful acts of another. I don't know if you can get to a minimal amount of parenting. There are some shit kids out there, and I blame the parents for those shit kids. But at the end of the day, those shit kids have to take responsibility for their own actions. I did not call her. No, I didn't. I didn't message her or email her or anything like that. I was going to, and then I thought it might just sort of have the opposite effect. So I figured if she's concerned, she's watching me or other news media outlets that are talking about it, or she's watching her own performance, or she recalls her own performance. So I didn't bother calling her or anything. This case is frustrating. It is very frustrating. Red question marks are easy to see, Jamie says. They are. Jamie, did I not send you an invite? I'm going to send you an invite. Why is everything working weird today? Let's see. We have no live feed up yet. So the defense had issued the defense had brought up a motion regarding evidence and other things late Friday night or Friday evening after the jury had left. And they brought it up because they know the judge doesn't want to deal with things and have the jury sitting around. The judge then said she didn't really have time to deal with it Friday night at 5 o'clock. So there was talk that they would address everything this morning at like 8:30, told the jury to come in at 9 and presumably be ready to go at like 9:15. So I thought we were going to get some motion hearings this morning that are streamed, but nothing is being streamed. So I'm just hoping that they're not handling this motion hearing without us because I want to see it. I want to see what's going on with this evidence. They have issues with the journals, text messages, but most importantly, Ethan's medical records. So I was hoping to hear some of the argument on this. I've already affected the numbers of people watching. Let's see. It would be interesting to see how YouTube algorithms have already affected the number of people watching. I was unsubscribed. All of MLS videos came up as unavailable. I was on subscribed or unsubscribed. Well, my videos aren't just available to subscribers. I think right now it's set up so that only subscribers can chat. But I don't know. It's only 5:43 a.m. I am so tired. Well, I'm glad I can be with you during your morning cup of coffee. And yeah, so we are just waiting. How do the journals get in? All right, so typically the journals would be hearsay, and they wouldn't be they wouldn't be admissible except through the party that drafted them. And because Ethan is not a party opponent, right? They're hearsay, so one of the exceptions would be a party opponent. Now, Ethan's not a party. They could call him to the stand and question him about them, but they're not really material anyways. They're not germane to the case. Ideally, what you'd want is to call Ethan in the stand and ask him a bunch of questions. You don't have to worry about the journals. But since Ethan is pleading the fifth, the state wants to use the journals. Now, the journals, in my mind, would be inadmissible hearsay, period, end of story. The judge has said that under 803.1, 803 meaning hearsay, Michigan Rules of Evidence, 803.1 is present sense impression. So it's an exception to the hearsay rule. Presumably, the statements were written in real time, and it was a present sense impression, but generally that's for the witness. So if you called Ethan to the stand, you could get the journals in as a present sense impression because that was the witness that made them, that made the statements in the journal. But with Ethan not on the stand, I don't know how under the rules of evidence you actually get it in, unless the judge has decided we're going to allow them in and I'm going to make up a reason. I don't really get how else you get those in. It's the same thing with the text messages. especially the text messages between Ethan and his friend. Those are it's super secret hearsay because you don't have either party to the conversation involved. It's not even double hearsay, it's just super secret hearsay. And it's but the judge has allowed him in. And that's one of the evidentiary issues. That might be grounds for overturning a conviction at some point, if there is a conviction. But I just hope there's not a conviction. Let's see. Is it the judge's style to leave attorneys have law? Let's see. Sometimes seem like shouting matches, speaking objections. Yeah, that's really the judge. The fact that they're speaking objections and they're yelling at each other, that is absolutely the judge allowing that to take place. This judge is fairly loose. If you've noticed, the judge is sort of guiding some of the questions to the witnesses as well for both sides. That's just this particular judge's style. Why does the state? Okay, so why does the state believe that the parents need to be up a 15-year-old's ass? I think it didn't matter what these parents did. These parents could have gotten him counseling. These parents could have been reading every text message. They could have been specifically addressing these things. Whatever they did wasn't going to be enough because obviously it didn't work. And since it didn't work, it wasn't enough. And that's the problem I have with this. And that's why I like the intentional wrongful acts of a third party as an intervener is a bright line rule that's been in existence for hundreds of years. And it's a nice bright line rule. If there's a third party that committed an intentional wrongful act between your negligent act and the death that resulted, that's a clear bright line rule. Otherwise, what is enough? To some people, getting him counseling would be enough. Well, what if he just went to 1 day of counseling? Well, you should have started it sooner. Well, we got him into counseling in March. Well, you should have done it in January. Well, we got him into counseling in January. Well, did you prescribe? Did you push for medication? You never pushed for medication. That wasn't. You should have really pushed for medication. Where's the bright line rule? And that's what I have a problem with. So it's the state second guessing parents, and whatever the state says is what goes. And I don't like that. If the state says you did enough, then you're fine. If the state says you didn't, then you're not. And that I just have a problem with because then who knows if you're doing what's right or what's wrong. One of the fundamental things about our criminal code is that it's presumed to be clear enough that everyone could follow it. Now, ignorance of the law is no excuse, but the law should be written in a way where it's clear. I cannot have a 0.08 blood alcohol level or higher. Well, that's a bad example because who knows which real blood alcohol is. But, I cannot steal somebody's property. That's not mine. It's nice and clear. We have things like, I'm trying to remember it's essentially void for vagueness. If a statute is too vague and that it doesn't sufficiently inform people as to what their conduct should be, then the statute is invalid and it can't be enforced. And so that's the same theory behind this. How do we know if a parent has done enough? Well, we know it when we see it. We'll tell you. Don't worry. The state says they will tell you, and they will charge you criminally if it's not enough. Don't worry about it. Let's see. With Ethan's texts and journals coming in, is there a good appeal issue? I think there is a good appeal issue on that. Some cases you just can't bring because you don't have the available witnesses. I deal with that every day. There's some arguments I can't make because I don't have the available witnesses. It is what it is. And for some reason, prosecutors seem to think, well, we're still going to bring this case, even though under the court rules, we shouldn't be able to, to prove it. Yes, and please all hit the like button on this day 3, take 2 of the Jennifer Crumbley manslaughter trial. Can't wait to see the state argue that the parent should have been reading his private journals and diaries. Right? Well, there's no evidence that they did. So the state's going to have to argue that a responsible parent would have. would have known that it existed and would have read it. The other thing is, it's not clear to me when this journal, the second journal, the bad one that talks about all of his plans, was actually written. The only date in those journals, if I recall from the preliminary examination, was November 25th, I want to say. Somewhere right around there, November 25th. So that's 5 days. 5 days that he wrote the journal, that his parents should have discovered it and read it. And we don't know when he wrote everything. We just know that that's the earliest date contained in there. We also know that most of it was written after the firearm which was purchased, which was on November 26th, because they went shooting on November 27th, and he writes about that. And then he writes about, I've got my gun, I can carry out my plan as soon as I can figure out where my dad hid the firearm, the gun. Something that's not quoted verbatim, but something along those lines. He needs to find where his dad hid the gun. So that would indicate that, one, it was written after they purchased it, but two, it sounds like dad might have hidden the gun from him. He didn't have unfettered access to it. So there's a lot of issues with these journals. I think the journals cut both ways. While it talks about his plan, it's a very short amount of time that he would have written it, and it seems to indicate that dad hid the gun from him. I found you via Sean. He was denying me lunch breaks. Let's see here. Hey, Brandon, welcome. Welcome. Let's go. I thought we were going to have a hearing. I was all excited. We're just staring at a blank screen. Let's see. Do you have the rules for the hearsay thing? I want to know what Judge thinking. Yeah, I mean, I can pull them up. Let me pull them up here real quick. Let me find a good window, because now that I have a new stream opened up, everything is all over the place. Let's see. Michigan Rules of Evidence 803. Let's see. Okay, let's pull this up just so you guys can get an idea of what we're talking about here. All right, so this is Michigan Rules of Evidence 803. The following are not excluded from the rule against hearsay. So again, hearsay is an out-of-court statement offered for the truth of the matter asserted. I don't know if you guys can see this very well. All right, so 803.1 is present sense impression. The statement describing or explaining an event or condition made while or immediately after the declarant perceived it. So this is the exception that they're getting these text messages in and these journal entries in, which I don't believe journal entries fall under the category of present sense impression. There's also excited utterance, which is a statement relating to a startling event or condition. So these are various hearsay exceptions. I haven't dove into the case law related to present sense impression, but this is not, journal entries are generally not under the present sense impression rule. So I think the court was reaching in trying to get these journal entries in, but that's the particular court rule. But I went all the way down. So if you guys asked a question and I missed it, go ahead and post it again, because I skipped all the way down to most recent chats. Yeah, but see, okay, so the judge then doesn't need to go to 803.1, because so the hearsay rule specifically is it's an out-of-court statement offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted. All right, so that's the entire hearsay rule. You can't admit it. So if it's not offered for the truth of the matter asserted, then she doesn't need to go to 803.1, because it's not technically hearsay if it's not offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted. So if she there's like another one, there's effect on the listener, right? Effect on the listener. So if there was some proof that Jennifer Crumbley had seen this, then they could admit it to say, look, you read this and your response was X, Y, and Z. And the effect on the listener could even get in. But again, you're not using it to prove the truth of the matter asserted, so it doesn't become hearsay anyways. So you don't need the 8031 exception or any of the exceptions. Defense has 4 young children. You're talking about defense attorney has 4 young children. I see why she's emotional. Yeah, but being emotional is not good. You're not serving your client by being emotional in the courtroom. I'm sorry, you're just not. You need to be above the emotions. Let's see. So there is exceptions. So Matt says, I'm remembering the Mark Jensen case where they let the letters in beyond the grave. So there are exceptions for when you are being charged with unaliving somebody and the proof that you were involved in unaliving is a hearsay statement from the decedent. There's a whole category of hearsay that's admissible when the declarant is unavailable. And the reason is they don't want to incentivize people who say maybe just have raped and assaulted somebody to just finish them off, because then their statements can't be used against you, right? If you just finish them off, then they're not alive to testify, and therefore it's hearsay and we can't admit it. So they developed this whole set of rules regarding people who have been unalived or allegedly unalived to be able to use their hearsay statements against the person who's accused of unaliving them. I read yesterday that the judge may declare a mistrial today due to a juror reading media. It was brought up Friday morning to the judge. Uh it wasn't reading media. What was brought up Friday morning was that someone who said that they were a member of the media had reached out to jurors on a different case in front of a different judge and asked those jurors if they were jurors on this case. And they said no. And then they reported it to Judge Gorsuch or Gant. I can't remember who the judge was that had the other case. And so then that was relayed to this judge. And she brought it up and addressed it and just said, nobody's to talk to these jurors. No member of the media is to talk to these jurors. And then addressed it with the jury and said, I hope nobody talks to you. And nobody did try to talk to you, and let us know if they did. So that's what happened on Friday morning. And I'm really curious as to where you read this, because that is not what was addressed Friday morning. Juror was not reading the media, and it wasn't even a juror in this case. It was a juror in another case was approached and asked if they were a juror in this case. I did not talk to counsel. No, I thought about it, and then I thought it might just make things worse, and she knows what's going on. So I didn't. In light of this case, do you think we need parental rights legislation? I don't know what parental rights legislation would be. I mean, parents have rights. I think what we need is to amend some of the statutes that we do have, maybe even take them off the books. But that's a complicated question. We have child protective services that are second guessing people's parenting styles. There's a famous case out of Michigan here where a U of M professor went to a Tigers game and his son wanted lemonade. So he bought him Mike's Hard Lemonade. He didn't even know it was alcohol in it because he doesn't drink alcohol. And then CPS was called and police were called, and he lost his kid for 9 months and over an accident because the kid was holding a bottle and maybe took a sip. So there's a lot of things that we could do to fix this issue. I don't think adding legislation is appropriate. I think taking away some legislation would be better. Let's see. I hope the defense had lots of wine this weekend. I'm pretty sure she did. I hope she didn't watch the Lions either. Let's see. Yeah, I agree, Kim. I'm not a fan of her attitude and her style. It's unlikable to me, but it's been resonating with about half my audience. So I'm gonna say, okay, hopefully the jury is made up of half my audience type people. Let's see. Defense attorney needs to wait until she's in the shower to cry like the rest of us. Yeah, that long slide down the shower wall. Um, hopefully she could. Hopefully she can step back and take a breath. I did when I was editing the review updates thing the other day. I noticed she took a really long pause before giving her opening statement, which I hadn't noticed in real time. And then when I went to edit it, I was like, "Oh, what is she doing? Is this where it starts?" Because I wanted to just clip her opening. And yeah, she took like a 30-second pause, and I didn't catch that in real time. Let's see. Oh, my link tree. Yes, check out my link tree. Let's see. Jamie, I was expecting to see a different kid. This all broke. I was expecting to see a different kid when this all broke. I was like, the parents being charged based on what was reporting. Not now. The facts have come out in court. Yeah, see, that's the thing is that even now the media is portraying it way differently than the information that's coming out in court, and that's why I think trial coverage is very important, particularly for this case. Tell your friends to watch this trial. And whether they watch my commentary or they watch it without commentary or they watch somebody else, whatever they do, they need to watch this if they're going to have any thoughts and opinions on this case or any case for that matter, because everything ends up being different when you actually listen to the evidence and it's not filtered through. I mean, I have bias, right? Everything that I'm providing as far as commentary is going to be very biased in favor of the defense, which I think should be the case when you're talking about criminal trials, because right now Jennifer is innocent. And unless the state bends over backwards to prove her guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, she is innocent and she will always be innocent, uh, which is where we need to come from. And, but it doesn't really come across sometimes in media. That's only when you're unaliving with specific intent to prevent the testimony. That's what got Johnson overruled on habeas. Yeah, true. Or Jensen, yeah, Jensen overturned on habeas. I know Sal's been covering that, and I watch it for some of the fun stories and the letters, but I don't know the technical legal issues behind the case, and maybe that's what it was. But that would be the theory, right? If you unalive somebody and they're not available, I think in this particular case, in the Jennifer Crumbley case, and even the James Crumbley case, the text messages between Ethan and his friend, super secret hearsay. The text messages between Ethan and the defendant could be admissible because she's a party opponent, right? So we can get those in, but not between the friend and Ethan. We shouldn't be able to get Ethan's journal entries in. But since they're going to, might as well get his medical records in. And that's what I think the hearing that's going on right now behind apparently closed doors, since we don't have any feed up, they're talking about. I really wish this was live. I don't know why it's not live. I need to talk to the court about that. The other thing, which I'm disappointed in with this case, is that in Michigan, the jurors are allowed to ask questions. Now, it is up to the judge whether or not the jurors can ask questions. It's not like a mandated thing. But I was really hoping for some jury questions in this case. And apparently, the jurors are not allowed to ask questions. They can take notes, of course, but they can't ask questions. I tried to figure out why. I emailed the clerk, but she's not getting back to me as to why we don't have jury questions. Wrong. Judge said the members of the jury were worried about the descriptions getting leaked. I didn't hear that at all. I did not hear that at all. It was Friday morning. I watched Friday morning. But there was no talk that I heard anyways. And I was watching it on the live feed. There was no talk of media or that the jurors were reading the media. I didn't hear that at all. Let's see. Motion to disqualify Delphi judge has been filed. It's 5 pages. Quick thing before we start here. Okay. Take a look at that. I thought we'd be going live by now, so I wasn't worried about it. I'm sure this was addressed. Has the child ever been seen by a therapist? Do we know his mental state? Yes. So there was a bunch of psychological reviews on Ethan for the Miller hearing. So this is post everything. The Miller hearing being part of his sentencing and things like that. And he wasn't diagnosed with anything whatsoever. Now, the defense tried to make him sound like he was suffering from some sort of brain damage or something, but it really wasn't it wasn't really conclusive. I believe it was a bunch of BS. The doctor dropped an egg in court. It was ridiculous. It was the most ridiculous thing that I'd seen. But no, he hasn't been diagnosed with anything that I'm aware of, anyways. And what's telling is that the defense wants his medical records in, not the state. So if the defense wants the medical records in, then I have a feeling it's going to show that he has no mental health diagnosis or anything. Let's see. Reducing legislation, all the levels. Let's see, making less of. In today's America, reducing legislation at all levels is the appropriate, though unlikely, best course. Yes, it is. I had discussions with a friend of mine years ago about doing having sunset provisions on all legislation. I don't think that's going to work either. Because then they would just vote to, do a one vote that says all those laws that are going to expire next month we reinstate, whatever. So they're not even going to look at it. Very beginning of WXYZ Friday. All right, well, let's take a look. I don't have WXYZ. Let me pull up WXYZ's feed. WXYZ. Let's take a look at WXYZ's feed from Friday morning. And let's see here. All right, let's pull it up while we're waiting. Let's take a look here. We'll just jump forward to the part where the judge comes out and actually addresses people. This is Friday morning, by the way, for anyone jumping in. Let's go. She's looking old. Come on.
990 FE.
The more you may be seated. They are all here.
Your Honor, calling People versus Jennifer Crumbley, case number 22279-990 FE.
Karen McDonald on behalf of the people.
Thank you, Marquise, on behalf of the people.
And good morning, Your Honor. I'm Shannon Smith on behalf of
Jennifer Crumbley.
Morning, Sean Godwin from the Advocate for Crumbley.
We did get a note from the jury this morning, just for your edification, that telling me that the media is describing who they are. Someone is a radiation, veterinary oncologist, or radiation oncologist or something, and
Okay.
has 2 children, or whatever it is. I think that they are having belief that I have more control over the media than I do. But anyway, I plan to do nothing about it. So I think they were letting me know.
Okay, thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
They don't use anyone's names or where they live, what city they live in. So,
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
okay, who's the first witness?
Okay, but they're not asking for there's no indication of a mistrial. Does the judge have a mic? Yeah, the judge's mic is very low. So the court's microphones are much better, but I can't pause that feed, and the image quality is worse. So we're taking, it's what we can with this. I could boost this actually a little bit, but maybe it was Thursday morning that the judge addressed the jurors in the other case being approached, but there's no indication of a mistrial here.
Rogowski?
And Your Honor, we're not ready. And
You're
this
not
is-
ready?
No, we're ready, but before Mr. Rogowski comes in, there are exhibits that I have previously objected to.
Okay.
That
Who is he? Who is he?
Computer crimes, Oakland Sheriff's Office.
Okay.
It's my understanding or belief that he's going to testify to some of the messages that were sent from the shooter to his friend, who we're not going to name B. And I previously filed a motion and asked that they were excluded. I understand the court's ruling and that they're included.
Yeah, that was a year and a half ago, right?
Yep, but since that time, I have received further documents that show
Who's breathing into the mic?
information that is critical to the defense from the psychiatrist who evaluated the shooter, and it appears that we have an issue that the shooter will not waive privilege.
Okay, let me ask you something. When we left yesterday, I asked whether there was any issues. I really do not like to use the jurors' time talking about.
This is why they're having a motion this morning,
I'm aware of this issue.
Monday
I'm
morning.
irritated because I feel like the court has been very timely in responding to the attorneys, and I don't. The scheduling order had a motion costing in December, and I don't appreciate the creating trial homework assignments for the court. That being said, I'm aware of this issue. That's why I asked about it last night. I do plan to make a ruling on that. We've done some of our own research. I've gotten motions from those 2 psychologists, but I'm not going back a year and a half and changing my ruling that could have been appealed at that time.
Yes, this is
Well,
I
this
know that
is
things have
this
happened
past Friday.
since then, but those things are subject to appeal. The motion to quash.
Let's talk about that.
Denial was appealed. All kinds of things were appealed. This case went.
All right, let me pull that up.
For a year. I'm pretty sure it was coming back, which it did. And I know that I was staying, so you couldn't file anything then, but these rulings were made a year and a half ago, and there's reliance on those, and the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court have not told me that that was error, that I shouldn't do that, or anything like that. And I think there was opportunity to appeal.
Your Honor, there was opportunity. We did appeal. We appealed to the Michigan Supreme Court. The court is absolutely right. The problem is, even after the motion cut off, my office received records from jail psychiatrists that I need, that has important information.
Okay, let me tell you this. We're not arguing that motion right now.
I understand, so I'm just
Yeah.
placing my objection on the record because part of what I've asked for is that the evidence I am not going to be able to contradict that's going to come in through this witness is leaving me absolutely hamstrung.
Okay, so someone had asked about so when I was doing my when I was doing my update video, I played a portion of one of my other clips. This is things get emotional. This is day one. This is when they're addressing whether or not it was appropriate for the defendant to cry and the defense counsel to cry. The poll that I'm going to put up right now is: did the defense counsel flip the bird? If you watch it when they're talking about, when they're arguing back and forth, when defense counsel and the prosecutor are arguing, you guys let me know.
Is there any way we can have like a minute?
Say it again.
I'm like so sorry. Can we just have a minute, like a break or?
Yes, I know she represented Larry Nasser. We still have no courtroom feed yet for today.
This court, upon the defense's request, instructed the prosecutors not to show emotion. You instructed the prosecutors to tell our witnesses not to show emotion, and you instructed us to let our victims know. I understand the ruling, Your Honor, I do. You're concerned about influence of the jury. I take no issue with it, but it was a difficult thing. It's difficult, and we're doing it. And then to have not just the defendant, her lawyer sit there sobbing. So
I did not stop.
I just want to finish, Your Honor.
It's just the way she was rubbing her eyes.
I think if that is the instruction, we are trying really hard to respect the court's
It's
instruction.
coming up here, guys.
Because I understand the reason for it.
Okay, I didn't tell people not to show emotion. Some of that is involuntary. But there have been times in this courtroom during trials when people will show facial expressions or things like that, or make comments. I understand this is a very emotional situation for everyone here, right? If someone was audibly sobbing in the audience, I would hope that they would exit. And as you said, the reason for it. I didn't tell anybody not to show emotion. I guess some emotion is involuntary. So I guess I'm asking what you're asking me.
Okay, right
I
there.
think it just,
All right, let me slow this down. Let's go 0.5 speed. We're going to back it up a touch.
To show emotion. I guess some emotion is involuntary. So I guess I'm asking what you're asking.
All right, what do you guys think? What do you guys think? Did she just flip off like everyone in the audience? Was she making a gesture? Was she just wiping away her tears? Defense attorney has some anger issues, in my opinion. Yeah, whoever spotted that. I spotted it when I was editing this and putting together my update, and I was like, oh no, she didn't. But I didn't think anything of it. And then all of a sudden people started pointing it out. She was pointing it right, but she's using the middle fingers.
So
Double middle fingers.
I guess I'm asking what
Are those her middle fingers? Hang on, let me zoom in. Let me make myself bigger. I can't zoom in any more than this. All right.
emotion is involuntary. So
She has her, it looks like on her left hand, she has her index and her middle finger up. Why would the prosecution show emotion in this case, other than influence the jury? Defendant will show emotion. It's her damn life in the line. Yeah, no, I agree. And that's really what, fundamentally, if you listen to what the judge is saying, yes, I agree. But we're just wondering if the defense counsel was maybe sending a message.
I guess I'm asking what you're asking.
I just,
Okay. So the poll is up. What do you guys think? So far, we have 43% saying yes and 57% saying no out of 87 votes. 87 votes out of 227 of you guys watching. All right. Real time, though. We got to do it real time. This isn't the Rittenhouse case. Real time.
I guess some emotion is involuntary, so I guess I'm asking what you're asking of me.
I think it should apply to both sides. It
Your
should-
Honor, first of all, I was not sobbing, and this is horrific. This
I've
is
never
horrific.
seen this before.
It's
Okay.
horrific. That's
Okay.
why we asked the court not to play it. This is horrific. I don't know how the
But
prosecutors.
the
She's
victim-
watched it 100 times.
She does have, looks like, Kleenex in both hands, too. So I will say that. She does have Kleenex in both hands.
With these witnesses, it's horrific.
You had this video over two.
I don't know. I don't have this video. I have to go to their office to watch it.
You've seen it.
No, I haven't, because it's not necessary. It's not relevant to my client's case. We've already litigated this, but we're doing our best. We were not sobbing or making a scene in any way. All my eye makeup's still on. I checked my camera.
I'm not gonna.
Of course
I'm
you
not-
do,
I'm not
Farrell.
having
I
anything
need
with
to
her.
run
I
to
just
the
wanna make
bathroom.
a
I
record.
need a break.
Okay, we're having a break, that's what we're doing. And you have to keep your voices down. 'Cause
I'm sorry.
I don't think she was. I don't think she was flipping the bird. I think she had Kleenex in her hands and she was trying to do stuff.
Everyone here is human, right? Everyone here is human. I understand that. I'm striving really hard to give both sides a fair trial, and
What about the comment she made?
if
Oh,
people
God.
at least try to check themselves, to exit.
Yeah, that
this-
was a bad comment.
that excruciating, which I know it is. I'm not a robot. I'm trying to keep myself from sobbing. I'll do it at 6:00 tonight, okay?
I appreciate that, Your Honor. That's all I'm asking.
Okay.
That's all I'm
Your
asking.
Honor, we don't have the option to leave the courtroom. We're trying our best. We're trying, I promise you, we are trying our best.
All right.
Thank you.
Everybody needs to take a deep breath.
Okay. I don't want to show my face. There we go. Wait, hang on. There we go.
I am so sorry that this is a mess.
This was
Okay.
Friday.
On March 19th, I've got it up on the screen. This is when Jennifer Crumbley and James Crumbley are talking about Ethan acting like or seeming like he was way hungover that day, correct?
Correct.
And it appears from the text that Jennifer is asking if he's okay. She says, "How is he?"
Correct.
Okay. Why is this doing this now? I am gonna kill myself. Okay.
You can hear people in the courtroom saying, "Oh, that was my comment." I'm like, that's just. I get it. It's impulsive or whatever, but
Okay. So he woke up acting like he had waited.
The prosecutor decides,
so there was that. Yeah, so there was that, and then there was an argument over the stack of papers. I think it's a credible argument that the defense has. You see all these papers stacked up. These are all the messages, and they stack up like to the top of her head when she stacks them all up. She had them stacked up at some point, and the judge had made a joke about, "Can you pull those down? I feel like they're going to fall over," or something about Leaning Tower or Pisa or something.
Point of those messages, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that on that date, the parents were at the barn together with their horses.
Those are the pictures. Yeah, I don't remember if you have a copy of the text messages that were in that day.
I can show you them if you
can I
need.
make a request?
Yes.
Could you disassemble the Leaning Tower of Pisa?
Oh,
Because
sure.
Honestly, it looked like it was, I would hate you to have to reconstruct that. It just looked like it was gonna tip and then you'd have to try to re-put it together and that would take, I'm hoping you're gonna be drinking a glass of wine in your sweatpants this weekend instead of
I'm gonna drink a bottle.
reassembling that file, so.
5 bottles
I
of this
just,
one.
it looked like it was gonna tip. so-
Okay, no, thank you.
All right.
So those two comments were from Friday, and there were a there was some heated discussions about that after the jury had left the room. If I could get to that. We're getting so close to the end. It's gonna be hard for me to, let's see here. Oh, they cut that out. They cut that part out. Hang on, let me see if I could find it. They cut that part out on this feed. Let me see if I could find it. We're still waiting for the court feed to go live. Right now, we are still looking at a blank screen with nothing going on. This is the current court feed. But let me see if I could find argument from last night. Why would they take that down? Let's see here. Okay, I found it. All right. Let's pull this up. We're doing this all live. Doing it live.
Because I know the court, are we still on record?
Yes.
Okay, I know the court does not like, objections through, in the midst of testimony. There is an officer that is going to be testifying. I have numerous objections to many of his exhibits that are proposed.
Who is it?
Stoya, I'm not sure I'm saying Stoya. Stoya.
Okay.
And Your Honor, I just want to make the record clear. I received all of the materials in this case in over 30 discovery, sets of discovery given to me. Okay, I went through all the discovery obviously as it came in. I did not get the exhibits that were being used in this trial. They weren't identified. I didn't get them until after day one of jury selection. So I have done my best.
Wait a minute, there's a scheduling order in this case.
Judge, all of the exhibits come from the discovery. This digital evidence was turned over 2 years ago.
Well, she doesn't say she didn't have the evidence.
I'm not saying I didn't have the evidence. I'm saying that it wasn't identified until after day one of jury selection. So I just want the court to know I'm doing my best to object and to handle the evidence.
I don't envy your job, Ms. Smith, at all. I don't. It's a lot. I don't envy their job either. It's sad, it's voluminous.
I will say, yes, if you look at the Zoom feed the entire time, it's on the prosecutor's face a lot more than this particular coverage. And she is smirking and laughing and looking over and saying things like that. And then for her to come out and say, like, these jokes are inappropriate is ridiculous.
I know it's very difficult. So tell me what you're asking.
Okay, so
Morning fun
so
size.
the issue is I have numerous objections to exhibits they intend to admit. I know the court does not like
Oh.
to have objections.
Is Murdoch going on right now? Because our court is not. And I think Excited Utterance is covering Murdoch at the moment. Is that live? Maybe we'll stream snipe them a little bit.
But
No, that's not true. I didn't want to rule on I didn't want a surprise ruling on a motion this morning. I would have been more prepared and also would have told the jury earlier. I don't like the jury waiting for us. There's nothing wrong with objecting to an exhibit as someone attempts to introduce it.
Judge, we handed over the exhibit list with very precise pages, and we did that. We weren't required to at a certain time, but we did
Right.
that. I think the first day we were here, Ms. Smith, if our
conversation with Mr. Keys,
The jury's waiting for her to be brought down.
I wanted to hear the argument over.
so I'm wondering if maybe the jury should come.
You do agree with what determined.
Hang on, they're talking about
I think
evidence right now.
I think that the prosecutor was, okay, so I'm looking at the list.
They're talking
List of
about,
exhibits after.
We can confirm childcare for our witnesses
Okay.
and confirm, we have one person with COVID right now.
yeah,
One
they
person out
can't
of
give
state.
the
We're
defense
rearranging
a
witnesses
list
in real time.
of witnesses that they intend to call Monday morning this morning.
Can you tell her Sunday by noon?
I hope to have those answers by then, and
Sure.
I'll communicate as soon as I have the answers.
I don't think they're obligated to do that. On the other hand, it is a courtesy, and it is something that helps the trial move quicker.
I think it should just be fair.
It
For
would
instance,
also,
we
Oh,
don't
no,
have.
we don't want this to be.
We don't have an exhibit list from the defense. She said she'd provide it. The
She's
same time
not
we did that night.
calling
We don't have it. We
I
just
didn't
need to
say
know
I
how to
witnesses
treat it.
provide
and admitting
that night.
exhibits yet.
and I didn't know what exhibits I would need until I saw your list, and I haven't had time this week because we've been in court or.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I'm obligated to be here to both sides, right? This exhibit list, regardless of when you got it, to me has been very
I
helpful.
think the court
It's
is recovering from
Thank
the
you.
Lions
Fair
lost yesterday
because,
and
you know,
watching
some of
Murdoch.
You can
Some
thank
of them
the
will
family
overlap.
for that.
Some of them
I'm sitting here.
overlap,
Your
right?
Honor, I don't disagree, but also some of mine don't match what's been put up on the screen. Like it's not as simple and as clear cut. I have this weekend, which is going to give me time.
Okay, good. Yeah, okay. They're gonna communicate with you, and if you tell them which ones you object to, I don't know if I've seen some of these. Some of these are in the house, some of them might be relevant, some of them might not be.
I don't think you've seen any of that, Jack.
Squabbling
What's
in
I don't think
court,
you've seen
yeah.
any of that.
Judge, listen, if she just make a list, we'll be happy to review it with her, so you don't have to like.
Okay, so you're gonna be here at 8:30 on Monday morning. We'll talk about as many exhibits as possible. In general,
It must still be going through their
no
exhibit
question
issues this
and all
morning.
that, But if we can agree on some beforehand, I'm just going to pray that by Monday morning, there are no issues. Can I do that? Can I go to the river in Egypt?
Judge, regarding Exhibit 423, counsel indicated that there are certain messages she wants redacted. Counsel can indicate what messages they are.
We're dealing with all this. Where's the
Are-
fighting
are the-
over?
Someone said they.
Well,
Judge,
Case, the jokes indicating I'm going to kill myself in a joking manner. I'm drinking 5 bottles of wine.
It's just,
You
there
get-
are parents
That's
who
my
had their children
That's my
murdered and
So she says the jokes regarding you kill yourself and the bottles of wine. The bottles of wine comment was from the judge. So she's calling out the judge right now.
in this courtroom.
That's the
And we
prosecutor.
are the people who communicate with them after we leave
I
here.
said something about wine because I was looking at her exhibit and it was teetering. And I was trying to.
The judge does put them in their place.
But making a joke about killing yourself in this courtroom at this time, I understand.
I
I'm sure it
didn't mean
wasn't.
it like that. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. I did
She
not
can
mean it
stop
like that.
yelling that I
I
don't want to
did not mean it like that, and they know I didn't mean it like that.
We're responding to literally just sitting here, the amount of messages we get from victims in the community. And I just think just to be at a abundance of respect and caution, if we could just not say things like that. I'm not accusing anyone of any malice or any bad intent. I'm just asking that we just not engage in that because this is hard enough for the people who are sitting here now and who will be sitting here next
I
week.
understand. It's very hard.
Your Honor, I am not joking around about anything.
Okay, I think it was a slip of the tongue. It was a slip of the tongue, all right? Emotions.
Which side is bitchier? All right, I'll do it.
We also, a lot of people are saying he is the shooter,
But Your Honor, I do want to make a point. I'm not making an objection because my emotions are running high. In fact, I'm not having an emotional response here. I am simply asking.
Which side
that
is
we
more of a
be
Karen? That's the
respectful
goal.
to victims. That's it.
Your Honor, I am being respectful. So that is implying I'm being disrespectful. Me saying I'm gonna kill myself. I didn't mean in any way.
Hang on, we got something. New pull up. New pull up. We are live now. Sorry to abruptly stop that, folks, but I wanted to get to the live feed. Oh, Since I don't have any guests on right now, I'm going to keep it with this feed for a bit. You guys hear it okay? Ooh, what happened on Facebook? No sound? Oh, wait, hang on. Shut.
Report
Sorry,
on
guys. Here we
Friday.
go.
There was
did that wrong.
discussion about admitting the Facebook Messenger messages between yourself and James Crumbley.
Correct.
Do you recall that?
Yes.
And on Saturday, I came over to the jail to see you, and that was specifically a topic we discussed.
Yes.
Okay, and at this time, we have talked about how during the trial, there was talk about redacting portions of that Facebook Messenger thread pursuant to other orders, correct?
Correct.
And the court offered me the opportunity to redact portions of that record.
Correct.
And after you and I discussed it, it's fair to say that you and I believe that it would look like we are hiding evidence from the jury if they saw a redacted version of Exhibit 423, correct?
Correct.
Okay, wait till I finish speaking before you start. Okay, so at this time, I have let the court know that we are not moving for any redactions and that Exhibit 423 will be admitted, showing your entire phone conversation with James on Facebook Messenger. And Your Honor, there's specific dates it's from, so I think I should put the dates on the record.
It might be on the,
Just grab it. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have the exhibit. It wasn't with the initial.
I don't like the way
folder. I
she
had two
scrolls
dates.
with her finger
January
on her laptop
21.
pad.
Okay, so
yeah, early 2021.
it's the entire Facebook Messenger thread between you and Mr. Crumbley, starting in January of 2021, and it goes up through the events that lead us here today.
Correct.
Okay, is it your decision to allow those Facebook messages to be admitted?
See, the audio is so
in the
much better when
court
they use the quick
without
feed.
redaction?
Yes.
And you and I have talked about the pros and cons of redacting those exhibits.
Correct.
And at this time, you understand they will be admitted without any redactions.
I do.
And just a few.
Sure.
Mrs. Crumbley, you understand that Exhibit 423 won't just be given to the jury, but the prosecution can go through that with either you on a cross-examination or with other witnesses.
Correct.
And you consulted with your attorney specifically about that point?
Yes.
And it is your decision as a defendant in the case, in consultation with your attorney as part of trial strategy, to admit this entire exhibit?
Yes.
And to be clear, this is the
So it sounds like
Facebook
those
message
things
thread
have her message.
between Jennifer and James
Her
Crumbley dating
statements.
January 1, 2021. It's over 2,000 pages long.
Exhibit 423.
And Mrs. Crumbley, you understand that throughout the pendency of this case, your attorney on your behalf has sought to exclude certain themes or topics of evidence, in some cases successfully, yet this Facebook conversation does touch upon some of those.
I understand.
Affairs.
And you still want
This is
423
affair
to be
stuff.
admitted into evidence and referenced by the
Okay.
prosecution and
I'm
defense.
guessing.
Yes.
I'm satisfied.
All right, anything else that has to be out of the presence of the jury at the moment? We're dealing with your other, we're gonna deal with your other issue that you brought up about the snow.
No.
About the,
Oh, yes, okay, okay.
but we'll get back to you. Okay.
Okay.
What else? All right, we're gonna bring the jury in, okay?
Thank you, Judge.
video. Hang on, sorry folks, I'm just taking. Well, they might think it's beneficial, right? If you're going to stipulate to evidence, you would assume that it's going to be beneficial to some extent. Yeah, there was rumors about an affair, but we haven't really seen any evidence of it. And maybe these Facebook messages are what the, talk about the affair or something. What gives what away? I take it Dave is the defense attorney. I'm not a prosecutor. Can you guys still hear it okay? We got no picture, but the other thing is I don't think this feed is going to give us a view of the exhibits. We'll see how this goes.
Seated. Thank you again for being timely. We weren't ignoring you. We were just sort of fading
It was alleged
away.
that
So,
Jennifer did.
every day requires some certain preparation, so we appreciate
Oh,
you.
good morning. That was
Who's the next witness?
Ms. Kira Pack.
Your Honor, I'm sorry, may I please address the court?
Sure.
Okay, Your Honor, on Friday, I think it was very clear beyond a reasonable doubt, I had difficulty and cannot use technology. In my frustration, I made a comment that was offensive to victims' families, and I did it absolutely by accident as I was struggling with my computer. I am apologizing for that comment. I want to apologize to the jurors, to the audience, to all involved, and specifically to the victims and the families of the victims. I truly did not mean to say the comment I made.
I believe that.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
I'm not sure if that
Folks, just
helped
for a
or hurt. I feel like you should
I'm
have just
supposed to
maybe
ask the camera person to cut the mic. Yeah.
not
It's
comment at
muted.
all. Oop. Okay. I don't know what's going on. Let's go to the other feed, shall we?
I'm supposed to ask the camera person to cut the mic. Yeah. It's muted. Okay.
Ms. Kira Pack.
Do you guys hear two feeds or just the one? This is the horse lady.
Good morning. Could you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, could you be seated, and then would you state your name for the record and spell your first and last name, please?
My name is Kira Pennock, KIRAPENNOCK.
Thank you. Go ahead, prosecutor.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Kira, can you tell the jury how old you are?
I am 27.
Okay. And you actually have a pretty robust career at 27. Can you tell the jury what you do?
I own and run a horse farm. We do boarding and lessons and training
And how long have you been owning and running the farm?
since May of 21.
Okay. You said for the people in the jury or counsel, explain what a horse farm actually does. You said boarding and riding lessons, but what does that actually mean?
So people will own horses and they don't always have the means to have them at their house. So they will board them over at my place. So I take care of them. I feed them, I water them, I clean up after them. And then they can come.
Yeah, this
Their
didn't
horses
go
on the
well
farm.
during the preliminary examination.
And
I
so
didn't
the
think for
boarding
the state.
includes feeding and watering the horse. That's all one price.
Yes, it also includes like cleaning up after them, but I mean, really just any of the care that they might need for just general living.
Okay, and how much is the cost of boarding one horse?
Board at that time was $400 for pasture board, so if their horse is outside 24/7 with access to a shelter if they wanted to use it.
Okay, 400 per horse.
Yes.
Yeah, I did say I thought they were gonna get away with this, or do away with this whole horse thing, but it sounds like they're doubling down on it.
What's not included in boarding?
Vet bills. So if the vet has to come out and do something with the horse. The farrier, so the person that
Again,
works on the feet.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's basically kind of a pedicure for the horse, so that has to happen every 6 to 8 weeks. And then also lessons too. Lessons are not included, so those are separate.
And how much are lessons?
$35.
And how much for the vet bill, a vet or a farrier?
I'll get at it
really
on the
just
break. Let's start
depends
this question.
on, the horse, and then like what that horse needs. So, a horse needs routine vaccinations each year and just kind of general checkup. But there are other expenses as for like, emergency vet calls. So your horse injured themselves or is colic.
Now what? It's not frozen. It's not doing the spinning wheel of death. The whole damn thing just paused. The feed paused. There we go.
And the vet comes to the barn.
Yes,
See, now I'm not going to
Do
feel
you
bad if I
know
screw up
someone
my
named
cameras in the
Jennifer
courtroom.
Crumbley?
I do.
Do you see her in the courtroom today?
I do.
Can you describe something she's bringing to the court?
What the hell? This is just a bad feed. This is not at all my system or anything. Let me go to WXYZ. Because this is Fox 2 right now. All right. Okay, well, at some point, we will have a steady, solid feed.
And at some point, did they change their barn?
Yes.
When was that, if you know?
I do not remember the exact day or year, but they ended up moving to the barn that I had priorly boarded at before I bought my farm.
Okay, when they did board their horses at your farm, though, correct?
Yes.
All right, about what time, year, month?
They started boarding their horses, which by then they had bought the second horse. They had started boarding, I believe, in the July time period of 21.
Okay. Who did you know better, James or Jennifer?
Jennifer.
All right, and can you describe Jennifer's general demeanor when you were working with her? And well, back up. What kind of interactions would you have with Jennifer, and what? Just talking about the horse that she was boarding, or was there anything else that you did with Jennifer?
A majority of our conversations were related to the horses and maybe talking about goals for the future for possibly showing or just training goals in general to figure out the best plan of action for the lessons that I was
She looks like she uses mane and tail on herself. That's all I'm going to say, Baker.
giving.
So did you give her lessons?
I did.
Okay, how often would you give her a lesson?
I would say between 2 and 3 times a week.
Okay, and when did that occur?
Usually in the evenings.
So did Jennifer come to the barn in the evenings during the weekdays, or was it on weekends, or both?
Well, she came in the evenings during the week, usually after work, and then weekends, she would come in the morning, afternoon, evening. But
Okay.
I can't say for sure the exact time usually.
And did you say how many times during the week, the work week?
I would say probably at least 2 to 3 times during the week.
And about, on the average, what time would she arrive?
About 4:35-ish.
Okay. And stay about how long, if you know?
Couple hours, so at least maybe 2 to 3 hours.
And was that just getting lessons or were there other things that she was doing?
Just getting her horse ready for a lesson and doing the lesson and then cooling the horse down and taking them back out to their pasture. And then just everybody at the barn is pretty friendly. Everybody will talk. So just small conversation.
So the boarding and the feeding is just the basic.
Yeah,
care. Is
it's
there a
not,
lot
'cause
more-
I go
a
out
lot
to
more
my
things you
horse
have to
every
do as a
day.
care of a horse,
Just about.
if you're the owner.
I feel like they're
The
lazy horse
owner,
owners.
Pays the barn where the horse is boarded at to do the general care of the horse, like the day-to-day
Mhm.
things such as giving them water and grain and hay and cleaning up after them and maybe changing blankets and different things to make sure that they stay warm.
So there's a amended exhibit, which includes the Facebook messages between Jennifer and James. Were they both taking care of the horses? And the reason I ask is there seems to be a lot of communication between the two of them about taking care of the horses. So I'm trying to get at what else would they be doing other than just feeding the horse and you said cooling it off.
Riding the
Taking it-
horse,
I'm not a
petting the horse,
person, so
giving the horse
Um,
kisses.
taking it out to pasture and does it have to be, do you have to ride your horses? Like what's the responsibility here?
Most likely what they might be talking about is maybe some of the vet care. So I know one of their horses had what's called mud fever. It's kind of a fungus stuff that might grow on the legs of a horse with wet weather. And
We have no idea
that
what horse
usually
people
is
are
something
capable of.
that ends up needing a vet to intervene with just medication to help take care of it. So it might be related to maybe the vet bills.
Okay.
Well, you know,
vet
the prosecutors have no
related
hobbies.
to
When
taking
they
care of
leave the
horses.
office, they just think
And you
about their
said they own
cases and
two
only their
horses. What are their
cases.
names?
One is named Billy and one is named Shorty.
What kind of horses?
Billy
were
and
that in
Shorty,
terms
there
of
we go.
Value of the horses there. I know horses can be very expensive to purchase. Where do these horses fall on that continuum?
Well, they were both thoroughbreds, so they raced on the racetrack before they had gotten them. But I do not know how much Shorty was purchased for. I believe that Billy was purchased around like $5,000.
Okay. And how do you know how much Billy was?
She was sending me, or Jennifer was sending me,
$1,000's a
on
lot of
issues
money
with
for a
the
horse.
Okay.
That's
And do you
been
know
kicked
anything
off
about
the track.
Circumstances of when she or how she bought that horse?
That's a lot of money.
I know that she was talking about it late at night and she was also drinking.
Okay.
She was drinking, Chris. She was
Do
drinking.
the people that board your horses and have lessons, give lessons, how do they pay you?
Your Honor, I need to make an objection. The witness's answer was in part non-responsive, and I'd ask to be struck from the record.
Yeah, it was, I think it was, unless there's follow-up, I think it was somewhat unresponsive.
The Facebook message string that was just admitted,
Thank you very much, M. Young, for the 5 gifted memberships. We'll get right back to the arguments in a minute because people want me to read the names of the people who received the gifted memberships. All right. Those went to Maritza Perry Ponte. I'm horrible with names. Kelly M. Sweet Tooth Fairy. Debbie Doodles. And Rush to Judgment all received gifted memberships. Thank you very much for the gifted memberships, M. Young. And if you are a new member, click the member tab, take the link to the Discord where we have all of our member content. And you can enjoy a lot of stuff from this case and the other cases that I cover. It's all in there. The only member videos I have is me trying to run a half marathon and failing at it horribly. And Jamie is right. Parents aren't allowed to have hobbies and drink. Everyone should know that.
details exactly how the horse was purchased.
But thank you
So
again, M. Young, for the gifted membership. Someone else
on
put
it,
in a
and we'll deal with it then.
6-month member chat.
I don't know.
Aaron Olivia, holy crap, it's
The
been
portion
6
I'm
months already.
objecting to
Yes.
is the unnecessary information about she was drinking at the time.
Okay.
I think it's relevant. I think if you're buying a $5,000 horse while you were drinking late at night is relevant to the case and the relationship that.
I don't like these
Jennifer
speaking
Crumbley
objections
had
in front of the jury,
priorities.
but they're funny.
And as well as the fact that the Facebook message string that was just stipulated to an admission without redactions, like, it's absolutely
Welcome,
disgusting.
KDP.
Okay, next question.
If anyone has a hard time getting into Discord, tag Jung, Jung. I know it's pronounced differently, but I like names. Tag Jung in there and she'll help you out.
How do people pay? Cash, check, credit card?
It can be any of those. A lot of people now use online payments like Venmo.
Okay. How did the Crumbleys pay you for your services?
Check.
And did James ever take lessons?
I have given him a few lessons.
So who was taking care of the horse during the day? Did Jennifer ever come during the day, during the week, or was it James, or did they both?
Well, the general care every day was done by the barn. But say if there was a need to have the vet out, we usually like to have the owners present. So they would usually have one of them at whatever vet appointment.
Okay. So you just testified they moved their horses to your barn July of 2021. You knew them approximately a year before that, 2 years?
They had boarded at the barn that I had my horses boarded at prior to buying my farm. I do not recall how much time we had boarded together there, but I had met them a couple years prior to
Okay,
that.
that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
So you've known them a couple years before they came to your barn?
Yes.
Okay. Did you know that if
They're just
Jennifer
trying to
had a
say
son-
that they're trying to say that the Jennifer was negligent. She neglected her son in favor of her horses. That's what they're trying to say.
if you know-
I don't think they'll get there, but that's the argument.
Okay. Did you ever see their son come to your barn?
No, I did not.
So the 2 to 3 times a week and on the weekend, when Jennifer would visit, did she bring anybody with her?
Usually James. I don't remember anybody else really coming out and with her.
Do you allow kids at the barn?
Yes, we do.
And what are the kids that are at the barn usually doing?
Oh, ask me how many times my
Usually
kids have
doing
been to the horses.
lessons. You know, some of the kids that are doing lessons, they have siblings that are brought out, so they just kind of maybe occupy their time with the barn cats or seeing the other horses on the property.
Okay. And do you have any family oriented activities or get-togethers?
We've had a family reunion
Meaning
before, but
parties or activities that children are welcome to come to?
yes, all of the events that we might have at the farm, kids are invited to. Like we've had parties like Halloween party before too.
Okay, around Halloween of 2021, do you remember if you had a Halloween party?
Yes, we did.
Do you know when it was and about what time of day it was?
I do not remember what day it was, but I know that it was afternoon, evening-ish.
Was it on Halloween or before Halloween?
It was before Halloween.
Okay, and it was a weekday or weeknight?
It was on a weekend, I believe.
A Friday or Saturday?
Yes.
Did Jennifer come to that party?
Yes.
And how do you remember that?
Ethan was 15 at the time. 15. So would a 15-year-old go with you to your hobbies, ladies and gentlemen, parents in the room?
I remember that both Jennifer and James, they come to the party and they were dressed up and like our parties, we include the horses so people will also dress their horses up for.
They put Halloween
party.
costumes on horses?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
Okay, and do you know if they dressed their horses up that year?
Not really dressing them up.
They seemed like they
wanted
were more
to,
friends
but
at the time.
They had also said that they had another party to go to after
Okay,
mine.
so you did not see their son that night?
I did not.
Okay. Did Jennifer talk to you about her son?
Not a ton. But every once in a while she would mention something about him.
And what, if, do you remember things that she would say?
Usually it was along the lines of, she was having problems with him, or he wasn't acting normal. She had called him weird before. She wanted him to do normal kid things.
Okay.
But I never remember her saying anything about, like, really bringing him out to the barn much or really doing much. I mean, they would go on vacations. I did hear about some vacations that they had gone on. But
So she took her son on vacation. She wanted her son to be normal, and that he was kind of weird. Oh my God. Josie is a new member. You're not a new member, but welcome back.
really, there was not much talk about her son.
Did she ever refer to him as a certain,
Ooh, you
Name,
up
did
leveled.
she
No, you
speak
didn't up level
negatively
to
about
co-creator.
him,
You've been
or was it
co-creator
just
for a while.
or positive?
Thank you for renewing your membership.
There
Susie.
was nothing truly positive when she was talking about him. There were quite a few times.
No, Joji has been a co-creator, Jamie. Chris, this is not hearsay because it is hearsay, but it's under an exception, which is party opponent. Anything that Jennifer has says is still admissible because she is the party opponent. She's the defendant.
That she had voiced that he was an oopsie baby.
What does that mean?
I'm
sorry, what did you understand that to?
I understood it as
Your Honor, objection as to speculation and also as to.
The last thing she got out was an ass.
Well, I guess I wonder how it is.
Let her finish.
I think if you're referring to a teenager still as an oopsie baby, I think it's relevant to what kind of relationship you had with them and what kind of, defense counsel's described her client and opening as hypervigilant. And so I think that the prosecution's entitled to
I think their relationship is relevant. When you say your definition of an oopsie baby, are you using your own definition of what that means or hers?
Okay, so let's talk about hostile witnesses. Hostile witnesses are witnesses that are called in opposition to your case. They can be your best friend. They could be your spouse. It doesn't make them a hostile witness. They are in opposition fundamentally to your case. So this is already a hostile witness. What you typically think of when people are talking about hostile witnesses is when you call a witness to the stand. In theory, they should not be hostile witnesses because you're calling them. But if their facts and beliefs and positions are hostile to your case, then you can treat them as a hostile witness and cross-examine them. So just because they're friends or they're friendly to the case or they like the defense has no bearing on this. It's the position that they are in relation to the defendant on the stand in the legal proceedings.
My take on what
I'll be right back, folks.
the feelings that I have gotten that she has not really talked
Your
about.
Honor, you're asking if it's her opinion. I'm sorry, she's going
She did,
into her
and I'll
opinion.
clear it up. We don't,
Okay.
unfortunately, your feelings about it are
Correct.
not what's relevant here.
Correct.
But did she ever explain what that meant?
She never truly explained what that had meant.
Okay. How long of a drive is the barn from Oxford, the village of Oxford, if you know?
I would say about 20 minutes.
What is the way that you would communicate with Jennifer?
Usually through Facebook Messenger.
And do you know why that is that the way you prefer to communicate?
I don't really mind what way to communicate. It seems like Facebook Messenger is how a lot of people communicate nowadays.
Okay, does the barn have Wi-Fi?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so do you have problems communicating when you're at the barn?
It depends on how good the service wants to be at the barn.
Okay.
Some days it's really good, and then other days there's not great service.
All right. And I would assume most of the people at the barn, that's just people deal with that and they know that.
Yes.
Okay. Would you describe, Jennifer, did you have a friendship or was it more just business?
It was mainly business. We had friendly talk, but I would not say that we were close friends.
When you buy a horse and it doesn't, it's not near where you are, how
What
do
did I
you get
miss?
it from like a different state to the barn?
Usually you can pay somebody to haul the horse over to the new location for you, or you can go pick it up if you have a trailer.
And do you know what was the second horse's name that was purchased?
Billy.
Billy. Do you know how he was brought to the barn?
He was shipped by someone that
I missed
does a
nothing.
lot of,
Okay, fair enough.
Cross-country hauling.
And do you remember about what month and year that was?
It was in the beginning of the year that she had gotten him, which I do not remember exactly when she had gotten him.
Did she get him before she came to your barn or after?
Before.
Okay, but so how did you know what was your relationship like then, before she was at the barn?
Before she was at my barn.
Yes, your relationship.
I would give her some lessons, and it was mainly business. And
Was she asking for advice about which horse to buy or how to buy the horse?
not a lot, but just kind of, just general questions of, what might work for a good horse for what she wanted to do.
Okay, I guess what I'm getting at is how do you know how the horse was shipped?
Because she had told me about, where he was, that he was in a different state, and that she would just have him shipped.
Okay, do you
Don't
know
know why.
approximately how much that costs?
I know why they
I
think
do
this is
not.
relevant, but it's not doing it
varies
for me.
on who you use to haul a horse, and then also just, the cost of, the fuel and mileage, and, everybody kind of has their own fees that they,
More than 500, less than 500?
most likely more than 500.
Okay. Can you talk to me a little bit about the health concerns or issues with the two horses? Did they need a lot of extra care? Like, were they given a lot of extra care
Given extra care by the vet.
by the Crumbleys, by Jennifer?
They would.
See, the
come
horses
out
got extra
and,
care, but
like,
Ethan
the
didn't.
the mud fever that we were dealing with, and they had put medication on Billy's legs for that. But there were some issues lameness wise with their newest horse, Billy, that they had still had to have the vet out for to diagnose what the problem was.
Were they on any other medications or supplements?
Supplements, yes. Medications, not that I know of.
What's the cost of supplements for a horse?
Well, it depends on what you want to have your horse on. I know that both Billy and Shorty were on a lot of supplements, and it probably cost over $100, probably close to $200 per month per horse.
All right, I'm gonna draw your attention to November 30th, 2021. Do you remember that day?
Yes.
All right. What was
Can you pull this up, by the way, people?
interaction you had with Jennifer?
Is the horse
Crumbley
testimony compelling, and does
the
it
day
help
before
the case of guilt?
that?
Yes,
So
no,
that was a
maybe.
Tuesday. Did you see her at the barn on
Put
Monday?
maybe in just because sometimes
I
people don't
do
like
not
two
remember.
options.
I think she was planning on coming out, but I don't remember exactly.
Okay. Did you have any communication with her that previous weekend?
The previous weekend before the 30th.
Yes, after Thanksgiving.
That's why you don't have any kids, Jane,
And do
because you
you
care
remember
too
what
much
that was
about the
about?
horses or the dogs.
I remember wanting to set up lessons. I don't remember exactly
Okay.
anything else.
In your Facebook communications, did Jennifer ever mention going to a shooting range that summer or leading up to that fall?
She had mentioned that
I
she
need 7
was going
options at all
to,
times.
but I don't really remember a lot of
Okay,
that.
was that in the summer or the fall?
I would believe summer and fall.
Okay.
Um,
Were you aware that she Do you follow her on social media?
I do.
Did you see the post that she posted about buying her son a Christmas present?
I did.
All right. Did you discuss it with her?
I did not.
Did you see it before the shooting or after?
I do not remember. I'm on social media, but not very frequent.
Okay. So the morning of November 30th, what was going on with their horses?
Their horse Billy needed the medication from the vet to help treat his mud fever because we couldn't fix it with the products that we were trying before, and his legs were swollen.
Okay, what was being done about it?
There was some ointment that was given to them by the vet to put on his legs.
That morning?
I believe they picked it up from the vet to put on the legs, because I remember James wanting to bring the medication out and put it on Billy's legs.
Okay, so did James go to the barn that morning?
Yes, he did.
Okay. And do you know from like what time to what time?
It was in the morning, but I don't recall what time.
Okay, and were you having conversations over Facebook Messenger with Jennifer during that time about the barn?
Not really.
Okay. Did you speak with her about this mud fever frequently?
I had mentioned it to her because it's not normal for a horse's legs to swell up like his did. Was just a mild case of this mud fever. So we had to have a little bit more involvement of getting that taken care of by having an ointment made by the vet that took care of it.
Okay. Was Jennifer planning on coming to the barn that night?
Yes.
And do you remember why?
We were going to do a riding lesson.
Did she end up going to that lesson?
She did not.
Okay. There was a text sent at what's including in what's been previously admitted as exhibit.
I know, right? We're going to hear that all day long.
Can you read the top text there, and which one is you? Are you blue or black?
I am blue.
Okay, so can you read
See,
the
this is the
text that you
proper
sent
way to admit text messages. Have the witness that was involved in the conversation.
at, what does it say, 10:18 a.m. on the 30th?
Yes. Boys are needing supplements for tonight, and Shorty lost a bell boot again.
What's a bell boot?
It is it's like a rubber boot that goes over the horse's foot to help prevent. We used it on Shorty for because he would rip his shoes off all the time. He had metal shoes on, and he would pull his shoes off. So
It's all very standard
bell
stuff.
boot on, it helps to reduce the chance of them pulling the shoe.
Okay, and you're telling her why?
I was telling her to have her bring out another boot to replace the one that he had torn off.
So it's her responsibility to do that?
Correct.
Okay. And she responds, can you read that text?
Okay, I'll bring some out later. Just had to go to my son's school and meet his counselor. Shit day.
All right, so she responds to you in about 20, 30 minutes.
Yes. It
Okay.
looks like it.
Okay. And then is this continued on that same message? It's just another message at the same time? Or was
Yes.
it later? Okay, can you read that?
Yeah, I still plan on doing the lesson. Everything's okay. He's just having a hard time after losing Tank, his friend, going away to a treatment facility and who knows what else. But he was just caught drawing this on a math test or a math assignment today.
All right. And this is the worksheet that's been previously submitted, Your Honor. It's exhibit 74.
Yeah, if I'm the jury, I am getting irrelevant vibes. But I don't know. I'm looking at this from an attorney. It's hard to sometimes step back from it. That's why I like having non-attorneys in the chat and on the panel. Yeah, I don't know why you would share it. I think she thought that they were friendly. Horse people are odd. I have people at my barn that share all kinds of stuff with me, and I guess
he's
we're
doing
friends.
Did Jennifer ever participate in any shows or competitions?
She had done one show with us,
And where was that?
at a farm right down the road.
Yeah, you do vent
Do you
and
know if
share
she
with
ever
your friends, and I
traveled
think
to
they saw each other
competitions
as
or
friends.
horse shows?
Not to my knowledge outside of when I had taken the horse.
May I approach your honor? So this is exhibit 74. And can you tell the jury what that is?
That is the math test that Jennifer had sent me that morning, of what her son had drawn on the math test.
All right,
Somebody had asked in comments, I think, why there were two math drawings, math worksheet drawings. There's not two. There's one, but this was the original one that was texted. And then when the parents arrived in school, Ethan had scribbled out a bunch of stuff. So it's the same one. It's just before he scribbled out stuff, and then after he scribbled out stuff and wrote some extra things, such as "I love my life so much," and things like that that weren't on the original one. So there's only one math sheet. It's just two different stages of drawings. So I just wanted to make that clear for anyone who was confused.
and did you take a close look at it when she sent it to you?
I did look at it, but I did not open it as soon as she had sent it to me. I saw it later.
Okay, how much later?
I believe that it was before the shooting had occurred, but after the shooting had happened, I had looked at the math test even closer.
Okay, so this is important, so I want to make sure I ask the question in the right way. You took a look at it, and you remember that. Is there a reason why?
I remembered saying that he had needed horse therapy. and
Okay.
She should bring him out for some horse therapy.
All right, okay, we're gonna get to that. Can you just do the next slide? So this is from who?
Did you ever
or
do
Jennifer?
it though? Remember, this is the
This
day of.
message was from Jennifer.
Can you read it, please?
As long as I can get out there early enough because I had to leave work for an hour and I have a meeting in Southfield at 3:00, but I should be done with that by 4. I plan on being there. Plus the vet said it's better for him to move around and keep it circulation going while he's dealing with mud fever. Good times.
Okay, so the first string I want to point out that you received from her about the lesson was 10:58. Do you remember? I'm sorry, yes, 10:58. Okay, and so this is all part of the same conversation?
Yes.
All right, and then the next text is from you, correct? Can you read that?
Yes. OMG, he needs some horse therapy. I bet he would love Mo. Whatever works for you, just let me know. I only have Bella's lesson tonight at 5:30, so anytime after her lesson is fine.
Okay,
He can't be left alone, she says.
and her response?
Okay, yeah, well, he'll be coming with me tonight. James is working and he can't be left alone.
Next slide.
Yeah,
does
I
he
agree,
want to
John.
ride?
I agree. This witness was much more damning for the defense during the preliminary examination than right now. I absolutely agree with that.
And she responds,
I don't know, maybe brush a small horse so he's not. It's there. Sorry.
oh, sorry, I had the
Yeah,
same problem.
no, I was trying to figure
Sorry.
out if there was more to that message there, but it was down. I don't know, maybe brush a small horse so he's not intimidated. LOL.
And she responds,
I responded,
Oh.
Mo would be perfect, and she responded with okay.
all right, and the next slide.
Make it a family event coming out to the barn. Really thought It really though, I've seen some amazing things done with horses with kids.
And at this point, you testified early, you hadn't ever seen him come to the barn.
Not to my farm, and I vaguely remember maybe seeing him once at the previous farm.
A few years prior.
Yes.
And her response,
He needs something.
and you responded, even though there seems to be a,
I can still read it. It
Okay.
says, let's make him a cowboy.
and Jennifer responds,
LOL, mom goals for real.
all right. So that exchange ends, and then the next text you get from her, Facebook messages at 2:36 p.m. that day.
Correct. And that says here, I will
Okay,
not.
hold on a second.
Okay.
What, when did you first hear about the shooting?
I had actually heard about the shooting.
You know what's sad to me at this point? They're texting back and forth about this, and Jennifer has plans for her son in the future. We're going to get him horse therapy. We're going to get whatever therapy we need, mom goals. She's planning on spending more quality time with her son in the future. And this is mere hours before this tragic event. I feel for Jen in this moment right now.
When
She has so
one
many
of my
plans
students'
for her
moms
and her
called
son.
me, in that afternoon and said that they would not be out later for their lesson because of the shooting.
All right, and what was your first thought, Kira?
Then the state uses it against her. Yep.
Is that I knew who the shooter was by the math test that was sent to me.
All right, that's a heavy thing to think. Talk to me about why that was your first thought.
It's not normal for somebody to draw these things on a test in school or even really think about these things, especially in a school setting, but really ever.
Okay, so did you then go back and take another look at the worksheet?
Yes.
All right. Did you talk to anybody about this at the time?
I had talked to my parents. I had told them that I believed that I knew who the shooter was, and I explained why.
Okay. And at some point, your father actually called the tip line, correct?
Yes.
When did you verify that it was in fact her son? Around what time, if you know?
I do not remember when I had verified that it was her son.
Okay, so let's go back to the text message at 2:36, and we know the shooting started at around 12:51. So this is almost an hour and a half after the shooting. She texts you what?
Kira, I won't be there tonight.
And you respond?
It's okay. Want me to work Philly for you?
And she says,
Yes, please.
okay, and talk to me about the next text and the picture.
It says just brought him in, and it's a picture of Philly.
All right. Did you text her photos or message her photos a lot of the horses?
I would send her pictures as I took them. I tried to be good about taking pictures of the horses.
Okay, and the next slide. This is at 4:07.
I said, hey, is everything okay? I heard there was a shooting at Oxford High School. Is Ethan okay?
And then at 4:21, you sent another text. Can you read it
If
to
you
me?
need anything, please let me know. And then under that, oh no, that's the same
Okay.
message that's up there.
She responds at 4:42 and says what?
I need to sell my horse's stat.
And what did you respond to her?
I responded with, oh no, this was what I was worried about.
Okay, can I stop you there? What did you mean by that?
I had the feeling that her son was the shooter, and that with that, the horses would most likely have to be sold.
Okay, but it doesn't say that, and you came to that conclusion. Oh no, this is what I was worried about because of some of the information outside of what she actually
Objection,
posted.
leading the
Correct,
witness.
And you say what about the
Where's
horses?
the objection?
I said, if you are serious, I will gladly buy Billy for sure.
And
I don't know if any questions regarding horses were raised with the jury. They weren't when I was there. But I don't know.
And then I asked how much, and she said I paid $5K for him.
Okay, about an hour and a half later, you respond? Oh, no, no, 6:24, you say what?
I had said, do you want $5K for him or do you want more?
And her response?
My head is spinning right now. Is 8 too much?
And she says,
I
You say-
said, I would gladly give you 8 if I could afford it. I really only have $5K to spend. You could ask Angela if she would buy him for 8. Angela would probably buy him.
okay. Do you buy and sell horses a lot?
I do not.
Okay, have you bought a horse from somebody before?
I have bought horses before.
Okay, is that something that you normally do via check, cashier's check, cash?
It depends on the situation.
Your Honor, I would just object to relevance.
Your Honor, this is part of a lot of evidence we're introducing about going to flight and the need for actual cash.
Going to flight.
So,
Why are these speaking objections allowed? They're going to argue that they were selling the horses for cash so that they could flee potential charges. This is the day of the shooting, and the prosecutor's going to say that they knew then that they were going to fly or they're going to flee.
at 6:47, she messages you again. What does it say?
I won't have my cell phone.
Then you respond.
Do what you need to do. I will take good care of your boys here.
And the next slide. She says what?
I can be reached through here. I do not have my cell phone currently on track phone.
And that is still the 30th, but it's at 10:21 p.m.
Yes.
All right, and
Because the
and can you
police
read
took
what you
your phone.
responded?
Do you need me to do anything for you?
Yeah, likely they knew they needed
I'm
money
not
for a
sure
lawyer.
You should. There.
We have a clean copy. I'm trying to find a paper copy that doesn't have that so prominent in it, so one moment.
I'm off
Okay,
Facebook. Yeah, because
let's
she was
talk.
getting nasty
Do you know,
messages through Facebook.
Where these, at some point did the law enforcement ask you if you communicated with Jennifer?
How do you mean that?
At some point, did you give the screenshots of these?
Yeah, it's fairly common in Michigan, actually. I'm not criticizing it for Michigan standards. These objections are fairly standard.
Messages to law enforcement?
I did.
Okay, so part of the problem, these are screenshots. Do you know, is that correct?
Yes, they are screenshots.
Okay, I'm gonna approach with the actual paper copy to see if maybe this is a little easier to read. It's just cut off, so.
Yeah. I'm not.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
probably going to have to
We'll-
come
we'll
from the
figure it out.
defendant's
Okay,
testimony.
but
Yeah.
can you just read what you can understand?
On this next, it says story being uncovered, already seeing some stuff on Facebook. People are figuring out what's going on.
And she responds,
I'm off Facebook.
okay, and the next slide?
I'm still in shock. What did Angela post?
Okay, so that text that you couldn't read, do you remember, was that about Angela?
I do not recall.
Okay, and she responds, you respond,
I said, can you receive pictures? I'll screenshot it. And she said, yes, I'm here. And then I sent her a screenshot.
do you remember what the screenshot, without reading exactly what it said, what the nature of it was?
The poster had been extremely frustrated and upset about what happened with the shooting.
Okay, and were there any threats in that screenshot?
I do not remember.
Okay, we'll pull it up. Hold on one second.
I am frustrated, sad, something. Well, we already saw, we'll say, hostile messages on Facebook. So we know they exist.
All right, so the next time you text her at 10:45, can you tell the jury what you said?
I cannot believe people on Facebook. I'm so sorry you're having to deal with this stuff.
Okay, and because I know this is going to be something council wants to talk to you about, can you tell us what were you feeling at that moment when this was going on about Jennifer and the whole situation?
Good morning,
I was
atheist aunt.
extremely upset about the situation.
Okay, can you give me a little more than extremely upset?
I didn't really know what to think. I couldn't believe that this had happened, and especially so close to, home. And I was concerned about what was going to happen in the future
Okay,
with just my farm in general.
and you at the time were how old?
That was
2 years ago.
2 years ago. I was 25.
All right, and were you feeling bad for Jennifer?
I did not truly feel bad for Jennifer. I was upset that this had happened to all of the kids and families, and I wanted to figure out how I could possibly get more information to help make sure that things were taken care of.
Why?
Were there any-
Why do you need more information to make sure things are taken care of? Sorry, I'm speeding this up a touch. We're a little behind, and I'm bored of her
The students
testimony
at
already.
Oxford that you gave lessons to or were at the barn, what is the community like there?
Yes, I give lessons to a few people from Oxford.
All right, the next slide. This is 11 p.m. that night. Can you read your text?
Did you guys leave the medication for Billy's legs? If not, no worries. I'll just put my stuff on him.
And she responds,
I'll bring by tomorrow. We're in hotel in Lapeer. News live at our house.
and you respond,
No problem.
and then at 11:40 you say what?
Please stay safe.
Next slide.
Hey, Wendy.
This is a screenshot that you sent or she sent.
She had sent me,
Okay, and she responded,
I can't go home.
okay. And did you read those?
What I could just from the screenshot.
Okay, did you?
So they're a little out of focus. Great work, cameraman. I would never have made that mistake. But they're basically like, you need to rot in hell. Ethan needs to rot in hell. Things like that. That's what they're saying.
View those as threats to her life?
Your Honor, I would object this to her opinion.
Yes, the same.
I think the text,
Good, she's
the
objecting
screenshot
to this
speaks
stuff.
for itself. Next slide. Okay, go ahead.
I'm concerned for you guys. You should stay.
All right, while we're getting a copy that actually is clear, why are you concerned? Why were you concerned? This was your
My
text.
my concern was more for the safety of myself and the people at my farm. And
Yeah, she didn't
We're
want
in
the
that
Crumbleys
concern.
showing
I
up
am,
because she didn't want the people that would be
showing
potentially
sympathy
following the
to
Crumbleys
hopefully
showing up.
figure out maybe more information on what is going to happen if they were going to try to come to my farm, or if people were going to show up.
What was the concern?
My concern about them coming to the farm, knowing about the situation that had just happened, is that they may steal things to sell to get money to pay for the.
Your Honor, I would object to this
This is
about her thoughts and feelings about stealing. This is irrelevant and prejudicial.
Issues about what was, that's what that's that question.
Your Honor, she is most likely going to be asked by counsel to explain that she was worried about her safety, and so I'm asking her what she was really worried about. I'm happy to save it on to redirect them.
Okay.
And then she responds what?
I have my pets at home. I'm sorry, I don't want to put anyone at risk. I don't know what to do.
Okay, her pet's at home. Did you know anything about her pets?
I know that she had a dog at least still, and I think she had a cat.
Okay. And this was still the night of the shooting.
Yes.
The next one. And in fact, this is at 11:59 p.m. after she says, I'm concerned about my pets. What do you respond?
Best thing you can do is just be honest about things. I'm not sure, I'm wondering about even buying your horses, if that would drag me into this, or if you just sign them over to me.
Okay, and then there's content we have to clear up, but can you read the last sentence, or the two last sentences?
The last sentences. I see people saying you're using money from the horses to get a better lawyer or something. People are ridiculous.
All right, next slide.
Why is that
I'm
ridiculous?
selling my house too. Lawyer will cost every bit of $200,000, and I think it will be questioned. You won't get dragged in. And then I had responded with,
Safe to say you might have been worried you would be called to testify on high. Yeah. Okay, what is your?
most I can afford to pay is $5K. Barrier is coming out Thursday also.
And she responds,
That's fine, sold. And then
okay,
she had said, I'll sign Shorty over to you.
all right, next slide.
Okay, want to sign them over tomorrow? I can either write personal check or I can go get money order. I'm not sure I have the cash on me. Can see if they'll let me withdraw that much.
So do you keep that kind of cash at the barn with you?
No, I do not.
All right. And her response?
I'm bawling right now, Kara. My son ruined so many lives today.
Okay, so is, take your time. Is this all the 11:59, that whole string, if you know?
I do
Can you
not
look on the
know.
paper
It's
copy?
right around in that time.
Yeah, I don't think she's a traitor. I just think she was looking out for her own interests.
There's no time on this.
Do you see the time?
There's no time in those messages that the last time it shows where the time
Okay, let's move on.
was.
The next, she says, I'm bawling, my son ruined so many lives today. And the next slide?
Then I so wish I could help you out more. I'm still in shock too. Take it one day at a time. Be honest about everything. It should help you guys through this.
And then you say, if you guys need anything, and I'll do what I can for you, and I'll take good care of the boys. Who are you talking about?
I am talking about both of their horses.
Okay. She responds,
I know you will.
and then your response?
Try to rest some. You'll need it. We can talk more tomorrow about the boys.
And she says what?
Okay, thanks for not judging unlike the whole world.
Next slide.
I think she was judging you.
I know you and James, and this doesn't even remotely make me think that it's your fault. It sounds like Ethan was a trouble kid. It's unfortunate this happened because he did ruin a lot of, and I,
What's that? Can you read the last few sentences?
yeah, the last few sentences of that, that message.
You guys are
says,
bored by
try to
this.
stay calm as and collected as you can.
Okay. You can approach this as the
I am
other
too.
time, so you don't have to struggle with the.
This testimony is doing nothing for me, and I find it frustrating. I'm pissed off by this. No, I'm not bored. I'm just disinterested in this. Probably because I heard it already once before with the preliminary examination, and I know it goes to nowhere.
Okay.
And I thought for sure the
Hold on.
prosecution was going to be dumping this whole line of argument, but they're like doubling down on it. This whole line of questioning was actually better presented, as John Gary said, in the preliminary examination. It's weaker on this side. It just seems more infuriating.
Okay, we're gonna put up on the screen a better copy so that.
Curious
you don't
about
have to
the
guess what's in
cross-examination.
between sentences. So,
Well, it's not needed. I think it shows the weakness of the state's case. Right? We have this and we have a journal, but nothing to indicate that the journal was ever read by the parents. I'm trying to think of what else we have. Potential affair. We're gonna have a coworker of Jen
Okay.
testified that she would go
So we've
across
been
the
over this.
street
This is
to
at-
a
we'll
restaurant
start at
with some guy
10:45.
or something. I don't know.
And can you go to scroll down?
I'm a little nervous for Cross, seeing how messy the
Okay.
cross was. Although
All right, can
Sean
you read
from
that full,
Potentially Criminal was impressed with her
Message that was
cross.
from
on
11:44, the night of the shooting, that you wrote in blue.
I'm concerned for you guys. You should stay where you are. I'm concerned for you even coming out here. I don't want people finding out about your horses or.
Objection, duplicative.
Okay.
We've already gone through this.
And she responds,
I have my pets at home.
go ahead.
I'm sorry, I don't want to put anyone at risk. I don't know what to do.
And you respond, again, rereading this because there's a line missing, go ahead.
Because she
Best
cared
thing
more
you can
about
do is just be honest
herself
about things.
and her
I'm not
horses
sure.
and her
I'm wondering
pets
about even
and
buying your
anything other
horses,
than Ethan.
if that would drag me into this, or if you just sign them over to me, if that would be better for both of us. I could see people saying you're using money from the horses to get a better lawyer or something. People are ridiculous.
Okay. And she responds, I'm selling my house too, we've already entered this. It's gonna cost everybody $200,000 and I don't think it will be questioned. You shouldn't get dragged in. And then again, we've read these texts, you said you don't have $5,000, or that's the most you can afford to pay. Scrolling down. She agrees to that and you tell her you don't know if you can withdraw $5,000, correct?
Correct.
All right. All right, can you read that text again in the blue that you sent her now that it's complete?
I still wish I could help you out more. I am still in shock too. Take it one day at a time. Be honest about everything. It should help you guys through this.
It's kind of hard to see
Please
the
let me
date.
know if you guys need anything and I'll do what I can for you. I'll take good care of the boys.
And she,
This is December 1st. So this is the next day. This is the next day.
she responds, I know you will. You say, try to get some rest. We can talk more tomorrow about the boys. And she says, okay, thanks for not judging us, unlike the whole world. So what time is this? This is now the next day at 12:28 a.m.?
Yes.
All right. And go ahead and read that entire text that you're texting her into the early hours,
Yes.
correct? Okay, go ahead.
I know you and James, and this doesn't even remotely make me think it's your fault. It sounds like Ethan was a troubled kid. It's unfortunate this happened because he did ruin a lot of lives around him and his own. Everything will work out how it's supposed to. I feel everything happens for a reason. Maybe this happened to raise awareness. Who knows? Try to stay calm and collected as you can.
And then you had an amazing ride on Billy.
Yes.
Okay, and how does Jennifer respond?
I wish we had warnings, something. He's a good kid that made a terrible decision. I'm glad Billy, good, kills me to sell him.
Oh, here's her admissible statement.
Okay,
Jen's
did you know
admissible
what she was
statement.
talking about?
She was talking about not having
Your
more.
Honor, I would object to this witness's opinion. The texts speak for themselves.
I'm not asking her an opinion, Judge. I'm trying to
No,
ask her.
you were asking her.
The
opinion.
topic of the conversation?
Yes.
Um,
Did she, what I'm trying to ask, Judge, is did she have any context for this about warnings?
Okay. You should have,
Without saying what,
you'd have to have personal knowledge.
right, I was trying to get to that.
She doesn't have personal knowledge.
Did you have any information from before she sent you the text about warnings, about what that meant? Not just what you perceived it as, but did you have any information she provided earlier about warnings?
just information of not really talking about her child much and that he was troubled.
So you don't know, other than the words
Yeah.
she texted you, that day, did she say anything about warnings?
No, she did not.
All right, and you respond,
There probably were warnings, but nobody saw them. Hindsight is always 20/20. I absolutely adore Billy.
okay, and the next,
A lot of people have found out, I guess Ethan is all over Facebook. People at the barn are concerned. I think it would be best if you didn't come out to the barn, or if you do, just, you must be escorted by the police. I'm really sorry. I'm looking out for my business here too.
all right, and what were you testified earlier you were worried about, what were you worried about? Is there anything else that you were worried about at that point?
I was also worried about just the safety of my other boarders. I do have people.
I think that conversation is exactly what this case is about and why she should be not guilty. Hindsight is 20/20. There probably were warning signs. No one ever saw them. That's exactly what this case is about. And even the state's expert, who's not allowed to testify, said that you can't predict these things.
That I give lessons to that do go to Oxford, and they did not want to be around if Jennifer and James would come to the farm.
Okay, and she responds to you, this is then the next day after the shooting, it's around 9:56 a.m. What does she respond?
Seriously, those horses are the only thing that is good in my life right now. And I responded with, I 100% understand that, but we all need to be careful. What if people follow you here?
Okay, the next messages indicate that it says Kira missed your call. Is there a way to call through a Facebook Messenger that doesn't include, it's not a cell phone call? Are those two different things if you know?
Yes.
Okay, and had you received Facebook calls from Jennifer before?
She has attempted to call on
Okay.
Facebook before.
And you didn't pick up?
I did not.
Is there a reason for that?
I do not remember what I was doing at that time.
Okay, and the next message?
Call me on Facebook, on track phone, need to talk and figure some things out.
And what is your response?
Sorry, I missed your call. I'm still doing some stuff and can't do a phone call until later on.
And then you say, can you message me?
Oh, yeah.
Communicate that way. Correct?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, next message. She says
I
what?
think she deliberately
Let's talk
ignored the
later,
call.
easier than texting. This phone is hard to text on.
And now your response is, now this is 3 o'clock, the day after the shooting, you respond what?
All right, no problem. I'll let you know later today.
And then you text her again that night at around 8 p.m.
If you're comfortable coming out here without police, I'm okay with it too. We just need to be careful. I don't want people to follow you or hurt you.
Okay, Kira, it seems as if you're changing your mind here and you're not exactly sure how to handle it. What's going on with that text? Because that's opposite of what you said earlier.
Your Honor, I would object to the narrative being provided by the prosecution and ask that she just ask questions.
Okay, well, I think she is. She's asking, did you change your mind?
No, she's
I
not.
changed my mind
She's
to
leading the
allow
witness.
her to come to the farm, but in my head, if she did decide to come to the farm, I would still have, my parents were there and just making sure that things were still safe.
Okay, and were you continuing to talk to other people like your parents during this time about what to do? Or were you pretty set?
I had talked to my parents.
What is her response shortly after that? That's still 8:12 p.m.
We're out of the area for a few days in a safe place until we have a better grasp on everything.
Okay, and the next message you send?
I am very glad you are safe. I care about you guys. I will take care of your boys. Let me know when you want me to buy them and I'll buy them.
And then you also add, if you need anything else, just let me know.
Yes.
All right. And the next message she sends is about an hour or so later at 9 p.m. And what did she say?
I'm sorry, my keyboard sucks. Let's plan on Monday to sail.
Okay. And at this time, December 1st would be a Wednesday,
Yeah,
if you know.
I think. I'm not good with dates.
Okay. And so Monday is for.
I haven't heard any testimony regarding Ethan having or not having health insurance. The only thing I will say is that James had recently lost his job and he was in between jobs. So maybe they lost the insurance as well.
5 days later.
Yes.
Okay. And then you respond, okay, sounds good. Is there a way for me to get the medication for his legs before then? Who are you talking about, Billy?
I was talking about Billy because
Okay.
he had the medication that was being used to treat his
The
fever.
mud fever?
Yes.
All right. And then she responds,
What's your number? I want to call and set up a safe place to meet. My messenger is probably being monitored. And
okay, she's telling you at 9:30 on Wednesday night, my messenger is probably being monitored. What did you take that to mean? What messenger?
She is referring to the Facebook Messenger.
So you monitored meaning that the messages you're sending are being monitored.
Correct.
Did you know who was monitoring them?
I did not.
Okay. And then she says what?
She says, "Hey, we need to get that stuff to you and discuss the horses."
Okay, so this is the following day at 12:49. She says we need to get that stuff and discuss the horses. And how do you respond?
My response.
Who's Truman?
Truman is our farrier that we use.
Your what?
Our farrier.
Okay, were Billy and Shorty having a farrier visit?
Yes.
Okay, and that was arranged by who?
Me. All the horses get done at the same time.
Okay, So you say Truman's here right now, I can let you know when he's done, and you say, I'll message you when I'm done.
Yes.
Okay. And then,
Said, hey, I'm sorry, can we do call tomorrow morning?
okay, were you trying to avoid a conversation or you were just busy?
Both.
Okay, there, all right, and the next message comes in, December 2nd. Yep, can we still sell the horses tomorrow?
Yeah.
And you respond, this is at 10:56 PM. You respond what?
I think so. Want me to have cash or check?
And how does she respond?
Cash is best.
And you respond what?
What do you want to do with your tack?
And what's tack?
Like the saddles and bridles for the
Okay.
horses.
And she says, sell it?
Yes.
Okay, now this is December 3rd at 7:19 AM, correct?
So we don't have grand juries in Michigan. I mean, we technically do under the Constitution, but they're used like once every 2 years. This is a paper indictment. The prosecutor files a paper document that says, I charge thee with these various crimes, and that is it. Then there's a preliminary examination. The preliminary examination is a very low threshold to determine whether or not there's probable cause that a crime was committed and that these two defendants committed the crime, in this case, Jennifer, because now the case is bifurcated. The judge says, well, I think there's enough just to keep the case going. Then there was a motion to quash by this particular judge, and she's like, well, I think there's enough to at least keep the case going. Then it went up to the Court of Appeals, then to the Supreme Court, then back to the Court of Appeals, and now we're back here. And the whole time, each court is saying, it's not really enough of a factual development. We want more of a factual development in this case. Essentially, try the case, and then once we have all the facts, we'll take another look at it. So that's where we are on this.
Yeah.
Is that what
That's that message on there.
Okay, that's UTC -5, so that is the actual time. That's 7:19 AM, and that is
Yeah.
December 3rd. And you respond what?
I can probably give you 800 for it all if you want. Are you able to meet today still?
Okay, and that is,
Not that I'm challenging you specifically, Dory, but I have a question. If they had health insurance, would that have made a difference? Is that enough? If they had gotten them into one counseling session, was that enough? Did they have to have several counseling sessions? When would it have to have started for you or for the state? If they started it in July, is that close enough? Did it have to start in March? If it started in March, but he wasn't diagnosed until July, does that make a difference? If he was diagnosed initially, but then nobody prescribed medication, is it enough that the parents didn't push for medication? My point in all these questions is, where's the line that we're drawing here? We're second guessing somebody's parenting techniques. Where's the line? How do I know as a parent that I have done enough that if my son commits a crime, I am not going to be charged criminally? Is it just because the state says I'm not? I don't like that idea that the state says you did enough, then you're fine. And if the state says you didn't do enough, then you're not fine. Well, what is enough? How do you define it? And the problem with everyone in the chat, I'm not just picking on you, I just saw your comment, is that we all have these different lines that we draw as people. My line, I think, is fairly firm, and it's existed for hundreds of years, and it's the intentional wrongful acts of a third party bars any cause of action. We have the intentional wrongful acts of Ethan here bars criminal liability. Now, maybe you could go after the parents for child neglect, but again, where's the line? At what point do you feel that it's enough? And just because you feel that's enough, should it apply for everybody, or just you, or just these parents? It's the problem with this case.
do you know that was Friday?
I do not remember.
Okay, no worries. And,
Well, yeah, at the end of the day too, Jamie, would it have been enough? Even if he got
maybe
counseling and he still did this, well, obviously it wasn't enough, so they must be guilty.
Okay, so that is, if I told you that was a Friday, do you have any reason to disagree with that? December 3rd.
I do not know the actual date that is.
Okay, so do you know what she's talking about? Charges? Did you have any clue as to what that was about? Just yes or no?
Yes.
Well, the jury is the finder of fact, yes, but the state has to bring the charges. So if the state brings the charges, let's assume the jury says, nope, this isn't enough and acquits her. She has now been locked up for 2 years in prison. She has lost everything. She has lost her home. She has lost her horses. She's lost her husband. She hasn't been able to have contact with her son, even though he's a murderer and whatever, but she still should have the right to contact with her son. She has lost everything. She's racked up thousands of dollars in attorney fees and all the stress and everything else that goes with it. But the jury, didn't believe her, is acquitted. That's fine. No big deal. No harm, no foul, right? No, it's not that way. This is an extremely stressful situation. She's been locked up 2 years as an innocent person. But so long as the jury acquits her, we're fine with it. I don't buy that. I think the state should have some sort of measuring stick that is objective and not subjective before they bring charges against people.
From Jennifer or from another source?
News.
Okay. And you respond.
She's in jail.
At 11 a.m. shortly, about 45 minutes after, just let me know and we can figure something out. Do you have the papers for the boys? Is that like ownership papers?
Registration papers, because both of the horses are registered.
And then you follow up saying,
I'll be right back,
what?
guys.
If you will take $5,800 for horses and all the tax and stuff included, I'll go get the money today. So I have it ready when you are ready.
Okay, and she responds, yes, and Brian will contact you. Papers are at my house. Brian's a mutual friend that you both know.
We both know him.
Okay, that's
Jennifer's closer to
Okay.
him than I am.
Thank you. And you respond, did you find a place for your other animals? Were you talking about her pets at home?
Yes.
Okay. And she says, not yet. This is at 2 p.m. And then you respond, I can find them good homes with my family members if you want. And that's around 2 p.m. as well. Is that the last message you sent or had exchanged with her?
I do not know if that's the last time that I talked to her about this.
Okay. Did you give all of the messages on that day, the screenshots to law enforcement that you had?
I did, yes.
Okay. Where are what happened to the horses? Did she end up, did you buy them?
I did not buy them. They were actually signed over to me. Part of our boarding contract is if payment is not made after a certain number of days or months, then the horses become the property of the facility to cover the cost of having them boarded.
Okay, and you were making those arrangements with somebody else other than Jennifer?
Jennifer's dad.
Okay, all right. Nothing further at this time.
Thank you. Good afternoon, or morning, good morning. My name is Shannon Smith. I represent Mrs. Crumbley. I believe that I've met you once before when you testified in court at the preliminary exam.
Oh, are we on cross?
I do.
If I ask you any questions that are at all confusing, can you please stop me and let me know?
I will.
Okay, thank you. I want to start off by talking about your relationship with Jennifer Crumbley. You testified today that you had a business relationship with her. Is that correct?
It was a business relationship, but also a friendship, but we were not super close friends.
Okay, so you would agree that at the time prior to November 30th of 2021, Jennifer Crumbley was also a friend to you. Not particularly close, but a friend.
Correct.
And the farm that you own, do you call it a farm or a barn?
It's both.
Okay, I keep using the word interchangeably, so I thought I'd
Yep,
ask.
either works.
The property
Yeah,
you
where
own
is
is
he?
approximately 51 acres, is that correct?
Correct.
And it's fair to say that to get to your property, there are long roads in a very rural area, is that correct?
Yes.
So your farm is not right up against cities or areas with a lot of traffic, correct?
Correct.
On those roads that are close to the farm, it's fair to say that the cell signal cuts in and out for different cell phones.
Correct.
And you personally, at the time all of this took place, had a phone through Verizon Wireless, correct?
Correct.
And you would be able to use your Verizon phone while at the farm.
For the most part, depending on the area and also just the day.
So there were some parts of the farm or parts of the day where you would also have trouble getting a signal to make phone calls or send text messages, correct?
Correct.
And you know from the other people who board and come to the farm that other people also have internet issues and are unable to receive calls and texts while at the farm.
Yes, sometimes people would struggle with that.
It sounds like there's one little area by a picnic table where people kind of flock if they want to check their texts or get data. Is that correct?
It very well could be. There are a couple areas that seem to maybe be a little bit more reliable service-wise, but even then, like sometimes if it's too windy, things don't work.
Now, you testified that Jennifer Crumbley gave you information that her son was weird, although she talked about vacations and some other things with him. Is that true?
Correct.
And you testified that you had concerns about her son.
No, I have no idea where you would
prior
fence
to
stolen horse equipment.
the events that unfolded on November 30th, correct?
I have not voiced to her that I had seen concerns, but in my mind, I had thought that, you know, some of the things that she had described or how she didn't really talk about him much, or if, you know, when she had talked about him, it was very vague. Like people like to talk about their children, and she did not talk about her children.
One moment, whatever's on the screen is not an exhibit, and so
Do I just go ahead and turn this off?
There's a button for it to go use.
Should I just pull my phone out?
I don't know, is this yours?
Yes.
Is this yours?
Yeah, this is my
Oh.
laptop. It was, I didn't realize it was turned on to my laptop, so my desktop was evidently up there. Okay, so Ms. Pennick, when you, so you've testified obviously here today, but you recall testifying at a preliminary exam that took place back in 2022, correct?
Yes.
And on the day you testified in 2022 at the preliminary exam, you did the same thing we saw here in court. You raised your right hand and swore to tell the truth, correct?
Correct.
And on that date, you did your best to take the stand and tell the truth about your knowledge of the information in this case.
Correct.
Now, on that date, when you testified, you were specifically asked, have you ever been given reason to believe he was not mentally sound, that he needed professional, medical help? And your answer was no on that occasion, correct?
Correct.
You were also asked, have you ever had reason to believe the shooter was homicidal or he would hurt other people? And your answer was no, correct?
Correct.
Now, today you testified that the shooter, you were told about issues related to the shooter and him being weird, correct?
Correct.
You testified about that issue at the preliminary exam, and I'm on page 55. And you were asked, when you said that,
Objection, Your Honor, you're on page 55 of what?
the preliminary exam.
So the witness doesn't have that, and I think
She's not impeaching her with it. She's just asking questions.
She's referencing a page number to something that nobody else.
Oh, I
has.
think she's referencing the page number.
You want her to admit the
Right.
transcript?
Okay, it's not an exhibit, so I'm just wondering if.
It's not an
if we're gonna
exhibit. She doesn't
refer
need
to
to
certain
admit it.
things that she said that she'd be allowed to also see that before she answers.
Well, I think she said, if she doesn't remember, if she doesn't recall, right?
Otherwise, with impeachment, I don't need to put the,
Yeah, so ask her if she recalls being asked a certain question.
okay. At the preliminary exam, you testified about whether James and Jen had issues with their son.
Do you recall that?
I recall.
And on that date, you said, I had never gotten the feeling that Jen and James had those types of issues with their son, correct?
Correct. I did
And-
not know if there were specific issues, as they had never told me flat out that there were issues, but just some of their behaviors that they were comments that they had made, indirect comments.
I know, I'm gonna
made
have to go
me
back and
think
watch
that
that
there may
later.
have been issues at some point.
So it's your testimony today that you thought there may have been issues, but when you were asked under oath and testified in 2022, you specifically said, I had never gotten the feeling that Jen and James had those types of issues with their son.
I did not know, I don't have any paper proof or documentations of conversations to know for sure, so they're just my feelings.
Okay, I'm not asking if you have documentations or proof. I am just saying that on that date in 2022, which was closer in time to the events in this case, your testimony, sworn testimony, was that James and Jen did not have those issues with their son, correct?
Correct.
No, she doesn't
Now,
want to answer these
when
questions, and I'm not sure
The
why.
math drawing was sent over to you by Mrs. Crumbley. The math paper her son wrote on, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes,
Okay. You ultimately saw that math paper, and you would agree with me that Jennifer appeared very concerned about what was going on, correct?
she had stated that she was concerned.
Justin, share it with your
Okay.
friends.
So she sends you the math paper and says, expresses concern.
Yes,
Now, you testified that when you heard there was a shooting at Oxford High School, you knew who the shooter was, correct?
my feeling with the information that I was given before I had actually seen it on the news, who the shooter actually was, I had my feelings about who the shooter was.
So you did not believe that the shooter would have committed a school shooting based on the math paper alone, correct?
I do not know for sure.
If you saw that math paper and thought there would be a school shooting, you would have told someone, correct?
I cannot predict the future that there would have been a shooting, but I was very concerned about the sheet, the math test that was sent to me. And I did talk to my parents about the math test that I was shown. And my understanding is that with Jennifer and James meeting with the school, that this was discussed.
Okay.
Sorry, I was muted. We are at 1.25 speed, so take that into consideration.
We can agree that after the meeting about the math paper, Jennifer was concerned. We already went through that, yes?
Yes,
We can agree that she sent you a picture of the math paper and you also felt concerned, correct?
correct.
And we can agree that you did not call law enforcement or police to say, hey, I think a school shooting is going to unfold, correct?
Correct.
At the time you saw the math paper and were concerned, you would have stopped a school shooting if you predicted it was going to happen, correct?
I would not have known that something like this would have happened.
You wouldn't have thought something like this would happen, correct?
Correct.
What ended up happening was horrible, correct?
Correct.
And it was not anything that you expected even, correct?
Correct.
So when you are telling the jury that you hear about the shooting and you're thinking about the math paper, you know it's at Oxford High School, your testimony was you had an idea of who the shooter was, correct?
Correct.
In order to reach that conclusion at that time, you had to rely on hindsight, looking backwards at things that you believed supported Jennifer's son may be the shooter, correct?
Yes, the only thing that the thing that made me believe that I knew who the shooter was realizing the math test that was sent to me that morning.
Right.
So after the shooting happened, I had a feeling of who the shooter was because of the math test that was sent to me that morning.
Okay, so it's looking backwards, connecting the dots of things you see that were of concern, and knowing the shooting happened, that helps you put it together who the shooter is.
Correct.
Hindsight is
But again,
2020.
if you
What did
saw
she
that
say?
math paper and had known or had a crystal ball and knew the shooting was going to unfold, you would have certainly called police or done something to stop it.
Absolutely.
You also would have said to Mrs. Crumbley, hey, I think your son is going to do something to hurt people, correct?
Correct.
Or, hey, I think your son might do something to hurt himself.
Correct.
And it's fair to say that you did not send Mrs. Crumbley messages along those lines.
Correct.
Now, you testified that you were being kind to Mrs. Crumbley. I don't believe you used the word being kind, but I characterize it as kind. When you said to her, I'm so sorry you have to deal with this, text messages along those lines that have been admitted, correct?
Correct.
And you are aware that Mrs. Crumbley from the text messages was saying she can't go home.
Correct.
And you were expressing concern for her in response to her saying, I can't go home.
Correct.
We can agree there was a strong public opinion against the Crumbleys that you were aware of.
Correct.
Many people were very angry with the Crumbley
Yeah,
parents
that's
when they
putting it
revealed
lightly.
The Crumbley parents were the parents of the shooter.
Correct.
Yeah, I
So
like this
one of
process.
Mrs. Crumbley's concerns that was discussed in these text with you were for her safety and the safety of her husband.
Correct.
And that poured over onto you as well. As the barn owner, you needed to be concerned about your affiliation with the Crumbleys.
Correct.
And you needed to be concerned to make sure that you were not specifically harmed by anyone for being affiliated with them, correct?
I wanted to make sure that myself, my family, and my barn family were also safe.
Well, that was going to be my next question. You were concerned about yourself, and I'm sorry, you said your family?
My close family, and then also what we call a barn family, or people that are boarded at my facility.
Started a
Thank
new
you.
poll.
And that's why you
Is
made
the defense more on top
indications
of
to Mrs.
things
Crumbley,
than last week?
about not coming to the barn or only coming with a police escort, because you were watching out for what you needed to protect, which is yourself, the people you care about, and your boarders.
Correct.
When you write to Mrs. Crumbley in the text that were admitted, please stay safe, you genuinely wanted Mrs. Crumbley to stay safe.
Correct.
And Mrs. Crumbley was explaining that she can't go home. Those texts speak for themselves.
Correct.
And Mrs. Crumbley ultimately says that they are staying out of town for a few days.
Correct.
And it's your understanding they were not returning back to their home address.
Correct.
In the text, you say to Mrs. Crumbley, you give her some advice to be honest about everything, correct?
Correct.
At no point, there is no point where Mrs. Crumbley says to you, hey, I'm going to lie about this, correct?
Correct.
There's no point where she says, Kira, please take my side and lie about anything, correct?
Correct.
When you're giving her the advice to tell the truth, she's not saying to you, I'm not planning to do that, right?
Correct.
And in your texts, you confirm to Mrs. Crumbley that you don't remotely think it's Jen and James' fault that the shooter did this, correct?
I did put that in the text message, correct.
And then Mrs. Crumbley responds that she wishes there had been warnings, correct?
Correct.
And when you text her back, you say there probably were, but nobody saw them, right?
I did have that in my message, correct.
And if you had seen warnings that the shooter would do something like he did, you certainly would have voiced that to Mrs. Crumbley.
Your Honor, I believe she's been asked that question a couple times.
Well, I think she asked if you saw that picture in People 74, would you call the police and said there's a mass shooting, there's gonna be a mass shooting, so I think the question is somewhat different.
I believe she also asked her if you would have said something to Mrs. Crumbley, I'm concerned.
Did she ask you that already?
Yes, a variation.
I did ask that, but then further down in the text messages, the conversation shifts. And the conversation is specifically, again, about signs and warnings. And so that's why I'm asking this witness a question about it again,
Okay.
only because it reappears.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so you never said to Jennifer Crumbley, when you two were discussing the word warnings, hey, I think there were warnings, correct?
Can you rephrase that?
You did not say to Mrs. Crumbley, when you guys were talking about her wishing there were warnings, you didn't say, Jennifer, there were warnings.
That is correct, because
That's just my question. You did not say, Jennifer, there were warnings.
correct.
And in fact, you continued to go on to be kind to Mrs. Crumbley and continue working out the terms of buying this horse, correct?
Correct.
And you continued to be concerned and telling Mrs. Crumbley, stay where you are, and that you didn't want people hurting them, correct?
Correct.
Hello, Mike Kinley.
Hello.
When Mrs. Crumbley was commenting to you
Just to
about
make it
a lawyer costing $200,000,
Are you listening to this far?
you understood she was
No.
trying to gather money together
It's
to
a lot better
pay
than
a
last
lawyer, retain a lawyer.
Oh, good.
And at that point, the shooting by the shooter had taken place, correct?
Correct.
And you do not know who the lawyer was for that Mrs. Crumbley was going to be thinking about paying $200,000 to, correct?
I did not know for sure.
So the court being late this morning
May I have one moment, Your Honor?
took a lot of my content away. that I was going to talk about during the lunch break. So what I think I'm going to end up doing, I know I
Ms.
said I
Hennig,
wasn't going
in light
to.
of your testimony,
I'm going to do a afternoon stream as well. And because I'm right now delayed and I don't like it, so I'm going to shut everything down. Just so you guys know, when they break for lunch, I'm going to redirect you over to another stream for the afternoon. And then I guess I'll send McKinley a link. But hey, McKinley, introduce yourself real quick.
Hi, I'm McKinley. I am a criminal defense attorney in Austin, Texas, and I have a channel called Legally Live.
Yes. We found her during the Armstrong trial, and now we can't get rid of her. But welcome.
It's true.
I just want to confirm, you have never suspected that Jennifer Crumbley has stolen anything from you, correct?
Okay, so what they're doing is cross-examination. The idea with cross-examination is essentially the attorney testifies, and then the witness is asked to adopt that testimony as their own. So that's why you get a lot of correct yes and no. And you're allowed to do it because they're hostile witnesses. They're not witnesses that are in favor of your case. And so that's why it's allowed. So that's why there's a lot of correct. Isn't it true that you killed the Mrs. White in the library with the candlestick or whatever? You do it that way. Hey, M, as a new member, M. Shannon, thank you very much for becoming pre-law. Make sure you hit the member tab. Any new members, hit the member tab. Take a link to my Discord where we have all of our member content. And have fun. I got a bunch of stuff on this case and other cases. Sorry, I'm out of sorts because today's stream has just been a disaster.
Has it?
It didn't go live at first. My YouTube didn't go live. It went live everywhere else except on YouTube. So then I had to shut it all down, and then I had to restart it all and had everything set up. And then the court didn't go live right away. I thought they were going to have motion arguments at 8:30. That didn't start. Court really didn't start until like 9:30. So all of my stuff that I had planned for filler during lunch, I kind of went through it all. So now I'm just setting up a new stream for this afternoon. It's been a mess.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. It's part of the job. It's part of the job. But it seems so distracting. But yeah, so that's why though you want them to confirm the lawyer statements. That's really what it is.
Oh yeah.
No.
You've never filed a police report or made that kind of claim to Mrs. Crumbley or anyone, correct?
No.
Thank you.
No, already.
Did you have any trouble receiving and sending Facebook messages that day in the thread that had to read?
I do not remember.
Okay, but you successfully communicated with her?
Correct.
Okay. Counsel asked you a couple times about text messages you sent Jennifer, and you wanted to explain. You said, that's what I wrote in the text. And what do you mean when you say that?
A lot of the messages that I had sent, I wanted to send them in a way that I could possibly gain more information to provide to the law.
She's just nosy.
Get this situation taken care of.
Okay. Did you have any other concerns about being in a confrontation or a fight?
Not
She's just being really
directly
nosy.
with them.
Okay. And she just asked you about concerns about theft. And you said, no, you didn't prior to this. So why were you concerned about it now?
I was concerned because when somebody needs a lot of money and then they're in a tight spot with something like this case, that they may do things that they may not have ever thought about doing. And one of those things was stealing things to sell for money to cover the expenses of things that might need to be covered.
McKinley, what do you think of this case?
Yeah, I think it's crazy. I think it's crazy that they're charging the parents with
That's
it.
coming from an anti-gun liberal, people.
Oh yeah.
You can step down. Can you excuse?
All right, we are done with this witness.
Who is the next witness and what would their duration is going to be if we want all services?
Mr. Hopkins, we won't finish before lunch. That's before 10.
Are you guys good? I've been waiting a long time, so can we call another witness and then I think your lunch will be here at 12-ish. We'll start another witness, is that okay? Okay.
The redirect essentially was meaningless. I didn't get anything out of redirect. Who did they say the next witness was?
I don't know. I didn't hear a next witness.
I thought they mentioned somebody's name, but we'll get it. We'll get it when they sit down and type it out, or spell it out, rather.
Oh, she looks tired.
Yeah, she looks really bad. Well, somebody was saying, how come the attorney didn't take 10 minutes to brush her client's hair? First of all, it's not what an attorney does. Second of all,
He.
she's in a holding cell downstairs. It's not like, I mean, they
No.
wake them up at like 5 a.m. And you got to get dressed in jail, right? And then you brush your hair or whatever, but then you sit there and then you get transported over to the courthouse and then you sit in a little holding cell in the basement for hours until you're brought up. It's not like there's an opportunity to brush your hair. Oh, hey, Runkle.
No, and a lot of times they will not let you touch the defendant like that, so.
Yeah, you're not going to be taking a hairbrush in there because that could be used as a weapon.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I mean, the client's got to brush themselves and make themselves ready, but then has to be transported on a bus and sit with a bunch of other people in a holding cell down below, having some breathing troubles this AM. That's okay. Welcome to this horrible case. I really like to get your input on it as a Canadian lawyer with this whole handgun thing, but I'll just keep sending you links. Oh yeah, happy birthday, by the way.
Oh yeah, happy birthday.
All right, let's see where we go with this next witness before lunch. What's that?
He said he's having breathing trouble.
Yeah, I know. That's not good. I don't know if he has
That's not good.
I wasn't going to talk about it too much because I don't know if he has a regular thing or what's going on. But hopefully you feel better soon.
Yeah.
No, not at all. We're waiting for
sorry, okay.
Mr. Hopkins is being escorted here.
Mr. Hopkins. Who's Mr. Hopkins? That name doesn't ring a bell. This person testified. Oh, Andrew Hopkins. Is this her former employer or employer at the time? I still have it at 1.25 speed, everyone. I'm going to slow it down there.
Or affirm the testimony about the truth to help you out.
I do.
Okay, please be seated. And then would you say?
Oh, you guys will learn to hate this guy. This is the school counselor. This is the school counselor that met with Ethan and the parents.
Oh yeah. When we saw him already, but this was during the preliminary.
The preliminary exam. Yeah.
Okay.
I will stream with liberals and Canadians. Yes, I will.
Sean Hopkins, SHAWN, last name HOPKINS.
May I judge?
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. Sir, did you work with the Oxford High School in November of 2021?
I did.
Okay. And what did you do there?
I was a counselor at the high school.
Do you still work with Oxford School District?
I am currently on leave through the end of the school year.
So you
Why
said
are
were a
you on
counselor.
leave,
What
sir?
exactly does that mean?
As a counselor, I oversaw my caseload of students. I had approximately 400 students while at Oxford High School. I helped them with post-secondary planning, scheduling. I helped them also with social emotional issues and really kind of working with them holistically throughout their time in school.
Okay, so you said you had about 400 students in your caseload, is that right?
I have no idea,
Okay,
Jen.
so how many students do you know attended Oxford
The witness
High
list
School
was never
in
published.
November of 2021?
I believe it was around either 1750, 1800.
Okay, so how many counselors were there?
There were 4 counselors with main caseloads, and then we had a counselor who had early college students.
Okay, so the 4, you call them main counselors, will they have a similar type of caseload?
Yes, we were divided out alphabetically, so we each took about an equal amount of students.
So you described a few different duties. Did you have any primary responsibilities as a counselor, or did you sort of have a lot of different responsibilities?
I would call it a lot of different responsibilities that were all primary.
Okay.
I don't know that there was one that we would put above the other that I described.
So in your general caseload, did you have regular meetings with students, or was it as an as-needed basis?
Both, actually. We did have a couple meetings per year that were scheduled, especially with seniors. We would meet with them regularly, and then we would meet once per year to go over scheduling and making sure that students were getting everything they needed
Oh,
for
yes.
graduation, and then on an as-needed basis.
I don't know how much
for
longer they're
students.
going. I'll send you
So
a
tell me
link.
about your background, please.
Well, I graduated from college in 2009, actually started as a youth pastor. worked in that role for from 2009 to 2018. I actually crossed over some with my time in the schools. I graduated with a master's in counseling from Oakland University in 2015, served the 2014-2015 school year as an intern at Oxford High School, and then was hired on full-time after that.
Okay, is that where you had been employed up until, from that point up until the time you went on leave?
No, I was at Oxford Bridges High School for the 2022-23 school year.
Okay, what is that?
That's the alternative high school within the Oxford Schools District for students who are credit deficient and at risk for graduation because of their credits.
Okay, thank you. So did any of your responsibilities as a counselor at the high school involve disciplining students?
They did not.
Okay, so who would handle that?
That would have been the dean or principal.
Welcome, Wallstrom.
So November of 2021, Oxford High School, at that point, were students still masked?
They were.
Okay. Was it in-person learning or was it hybrid or was it remote?
It was primarily in person. We did have times when we were unable to stay in person due to amount of students out with COVID tracing.
Okay, so it was in person whenever possible. That'd be correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what sort of issues would arise with the students in your caseload in the fall of 2021?
It was a difficult time. Looking back on it, it was a time when, it was a lot unknown for students, especially if they would be quarantined at times. You were working with them, making sure they were able to stay caught up. We actually had teachers filming their class as they were teaching their class oftentimes to make sure that they were able to keep students engaged even when they were out. So it was difficult from a scholastic standpoint, which in a lot of ways led to it becoming difficult from an emotional standpoint for students, where it just became.
That's okay, Ken. We'll be in an afternoon session with this guy as well. He's going to be on for a while.
What sort of mental health struggles would you see during that time?
We saw a lot of depression, anxiety.
He's already starting to cry.
Students struggling, and we saw suicide ideation and unfortunately suicide attempts during that time.
Tell us, please, what exactly does suicide ideation mean?
It's a difficult.
He's trying to minimize his position here. You guys will get to it eventually, but he thought Ethan was self-unaliving attempts, not unaliving others. And he's minimizing that now. He didn't testify at the preliminary examination that there was a lot of self-unaliving attempts going on. Now, all of a sudden, there is. That's interesting.
One to define for a lot of people, but really what suicide ideation is are themes or things which may be related to suicide. So we could see sadness, which in itself isn't suicidal, or we could see depression, which in itself isn't suicidal. But when we see these themes together, sometimes they can be linked with suicide.
Okay. In November of 2021, as well as the previous school year, was Jennifer Crumbley's son one of the students assigned to your caseload?
He was.
Okay.
He testified regarding
When would
Ethan.
have been the first time you interacted?
I don't think
with
it was
Jennifer
about
Crumbley's
that.
son?
Maybe I am wrong, Matt. I'll go back and
To
listen.
my memory,
Right.
the first time would have been in the
Sorry,
fall.
what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I kind of remember him saying something about it before.
Really? Because I didn't remember
Yeah.
picking up on that. I remember him talking about Ethan and that kids were depressed and had a lot of anxiety, but I don't remember the, maybe it was just the different way he phrased it. Maybe he did talk about it. I might be wrong. Still, I think it's him trying to minimize his
Oh, for sure.
culpability here.
Of the 2021 school year.
Okay, so what purpose would you have interacted with him then? You would have been a freshman at the high school?
Well, I do know that there have been things I interacted with him as a freshman, but I don't have memory of those. We would have done scheduling, we would have done just normal routine things, but I don't have a memory of that.
So when you say scheduling, you mean scheduling classes?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was one of your responsibilities as well?
It was.
Okay. Now, first of all, is Jennifer Crumbley in the courtroom today?
Yes, she is.
Can you point here and describe something she's wearing?
He doesn't even look the same.
She is to my right, wearing a black jacket.
Your Honor, would the record reflect that identification?
The record would reflect the court identification of the defendant, Jennifer Crumbley.
So in the defendant's son's freshman year, that's the fall of 2020 into early parts of 21. Do you have any recollections
I
interacting?
just described the judge.
No. Did you interact with him in the, if I showed you an email, would it refresh your recollection if you met with him in the spring of 2021?
I have seen this email. I don't have memory of the meeting, but it's been documented.
Okay. This is exhibit, I don't believe we have an objection to exhibits 155 through 160.
So let me just double check here.
Exhibit 1.
155 through 160.
You don't have an objection to any of those?
No.
Okay, 155 to 160 are admitted.
Mr. Hopkins, I'm going to direct you to the screen right in front of you. This is exhibit 155.
I feel like they wasted the morning
portion
with
of
the
high school
porch lady.
redacted. This is a copy of an email. Is that correct?
It is.
Okay. It's sent from a staff member of Oxford High School.
Mm-hmm.
You have to say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell us, please, it was addressed to you May 13, 2021, 1:46 p.m.?
That is correct.
Okay. What does the email say?
Hi, when you get a chance, can you call redacted down and see how he's doing? He's failing my class and tries to sleep all the time in class.
Okay. So this was in reference to the defendant's son.
That is correct.
This is a portion of the same email thread. Also, May 13, 2021. This is 2:07 p.m. And what was your response?
It says, I'll catch him before the end of the day.
And then did that staff member respond to you?
Yes.
And what was that?
Thanks. Just a little worried.
Okay. Now, do you recall having a conversation with the defendant's son in May of 2021?
I do not recall this meeting.
I'm going to show you what's been admitted as People's 156.
Mhm.
This is, remember, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. September the 8th, 2021, 8:23 a.m. This is an email from a different teacher to you. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. And could you read us, please, what the email says?
Hi, Sean. Could you please touch base with student? In his autobiography poem, he said he feels terrible and that his family is a mistake. Unusual responses for sure.
Okay. Did you respond to that email?
I believe I did.
Okay, so this is your response, September the 8th, 2021, 9:15 a.m. What is your response?
Thanks for the heads up. I'm in senior meetings throughout the day, but we'll try and catch up with him.
Now, do you recall that interaction with the defendant's son?
In this case, I did not have a direct interaction with the defendant's son. I talked with the teacher.
Okay, and tell us about that, please.
I had a conversation with the teacher and she explained to me a little bit more context of what had gone on. She explained that he was
Your
joking.
Honor, I would object to the hearsay.
It's not offer for the truth of the matter, sir, the judge, just offer what he did next and why.
Okay, so what did you do next?
So I had a conversation.
You're muted.
Nice how the judge just cuts him off then and says, all right, so what did you do next? We don't need to go into the context of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling they don't want it offered just for the effect on the listener, but they actually want the content out. And that was good that the judge cut him off.
Yeah.
Do you think that's appropriate? I do.
Yes.
Conversation with the teacher who gave me greater context of what was going on within this. And she stated that he was
Your
actually.
Honor, I would object.
I don't think it was clear to him.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right. Based on your conversation with the teacher, what did you do next?
Did you?
I did not have a meeting. I did not have a meeting with the student.
Okay.
Yeah,
this
based
time.
on your
Did you send
conversation with
an
the
email
teacher,
to
you did
either the
nothing
defendant
else.
or her husband, or a phone call to either the defendant or her husband?
I did not.
Okay, that's all. Now, in Oxford High School, are grades posted so parents can follow along?
They are.
Okay, and what system is that?
That is through a system called Power School.
Okay,
They are given live updates through that system.
and that's every parent of every student registered in Oxford School District that can follow along with assignments and things of that nature.
Yes.
And our parents also provided emailed updates to Power School.
I believe that they can get notifications through the Power School system.
And that sends an email?
I'm not sure.
If you
how that is.
know, that's all right. All right. Now, this was September the 8th, 2021. I'm going to show you People's Exhibit 157. Now, this is November the 10th, 2021 at 2:45 p.m. This is an email to you. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. And can you tell us what this says, please?
Student is having a rough time right now. He might need to speak with you.
And then your response at 4:44 PM on November the 10th, 2021 was what?
I'm sorry, I was in a meeting through the end of the day. I'll catch up with him.
Okay, and did you catch up with him?
I did the following day.
Okay, tell us about that, please.
I had a quick meeting in the hallway on his way to class and just let him know that if he needed somebody to talk to, that I could be there for him.
Okay. Now, did you contact either that student's mother or father at that point?
I did not.
Okay, did you send an email?
No.
And why not?
Because it was something that was very typical. I didn't have any information on the student other than he was sad, which to me is a pretty common thing and a normal thing. And I just wanted to be able to offer a bridge that if that student wanted to talk.
Okay. And you offered that bridge to the student?
I did meet with that student in the hallway and offered that opportunity.
Okay, for the record, that was General Crumbley's son, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, the next time you had any interaction with the defendant's son was November the 29th, 2021, is that correct?
Yes.
This is exhibit 158. Sir, this is an email to you that
That's kind of what we're getting at.
forwarded, is that correct?
This email was eventually forwarded to me fairly quickly after it was sent to the two on this email.
Okay, so this is Monday, November 29th, 9:32 a.m. Can you read us please what the email says?
I have a student during first hour today, defendant's son, who is on his phone looking at different bullets at the end of first hour today as I was walking around the room passing out their essays. I didn't get a chance to investigate it a bit further since it was the end of the hour. Now that he's on my radar, I'm also noticing some of his previous work that he's completed from earlier in the year leans a bit toward the violent side. I can bring these things later today during my 5th hour prep if you would like them.
Okay, so this was 9:32 a.m. and you weren't on the initial email, but it was forwarded to you.
It was forwarded to me.
Okay, and tell us what happened next, please.
At this point, I received a phone call from Pam Fine, who was on the original email, asking if I would be able to come to her office. She was planning to call down the student and meet to discuss the contents of this email.
Now, in the realm of either a school counselor or someone who's in discipline of students, there are certain levels of escalation when it comes to contacting a student and or a parent. Would that be right?
I would agree with that, yes.
Okay. So there's a check-in.
Your Honor, I would ask that the witness answer the questions and avoid the leading questions.
Please.
I would agree. Okay, so earlier you testified that you had just met with the student's teacher in September of 2021.
Yes,
Okay, and you felt that was sufficient at that point.
yes, because I was able to gain more context.
Okay. November the 10th of 2000, well, actually, you met with him November the 11th, 2021. You took the next step to meet with him.
Yes,
Okay. And now a decision was made, you just testified that to actually bring the student into the office.
that decision was made. I was not the one who made that decision.
Sure. But as far as you're concerned in your role, what are the levels of escalation to contact either a parent or somebody else?
It depends on the situation. If it's a discipline issue, I would be contacting a dean or a principal. And then they would be the
See,
ones.
he's gonna fall to this disciplinary thing. He's gonna say that, well, because it wasn't a disciplinary issue, it didn't go beyond just a quick meeting. Anyways, but I think it's clear that they didn't recognize the issues here.
From there. If it's a social emotional issue, or if I feel the student is at risk of harm to themselves, I would be contacting a parent in that case.
Okay. So you said it was Pam Fine who was on that initial email, and what was her role at Oxford High School?
She was a restorative practices coordinator at that time.
So tell me what happened after you received that phone.
Do you have a restorative practices coordinator at your school, McKinley, when you were there? I don't know what that is.
I have no idea. I don't have any idea what that is.
I feel like it's just a made-up term to make people feel better. Sounds liberal. What is it? What the hell is it?
I walked to Pam Fine's office. And the student had been called down and then walked into her office.
Okay, the student being the defendant's son?
Yes.
Okay, tell us about that meeting.
It was fairly brief. I was there as student support throughout the meeting, not to have direct conversation about the content of the meeting. But it was really a chance to get an idea of what he was looking at and why.
Okay. You said you were there for the standpoint of student support. What does that mean?
Well, when a student is facing a potential discipline issue, it's fairly common to call a counselor in, as we are not the ones issuing the discipline in that case, but we can be a person there who's in the corner for the student.
So is that intentional to keep the discipline separate from the counselor?
Yes,
Why is that?
because the counselor is not a role of disciplinarian, the counselor is a role of student support.
So your focus then would be on the mental health and well-being of the student, not if the school rule was violated.
That is correct.
You
It's
said
an
the meeting
alternative
was
to
fairly short.
discipline
It was less than 10 minutes.
or punitive
Was the
discipline.
decision made
Yeah, I
to
see
take the
that.
next step to contact a parent?
So it's
There
a,
was a phone call
it's
to
a
the
different
parent.
version of counselor.
Okay, now, do you know how that decision was made and why?
I do not know how that decision was made or why.
Were you there for that phone call?
I was.
And was it a voicemail?
It was a voicemail.
Okay.
Ooh,
And
we gotta
who
play
made
the
it? You or
voicemail
Ms.
again?
Fine?
Ms. Fine is the one who made the phone call.
Now, when was the next time you had any interaction?
Positively
Well, first we'll go
uplifting
through the rest of
voicemail.
what
We
the
should play it
behavior
again.
on your screen.
Mhm.
This is when it was forwarded.
Have you heard it?
Forwarded to you at 9:34.
Yes.
Can you read this email, please?
I sent the following email to Nick and Pam. I wanted to make you aware as well. I'm not sure if you had any contact with this student.
Okay, now who's Nick?
Nick was a dean of students at Oxford High School at the time.
Okay. And 9:36 a.m., you responded to the email. What did you write?
Thanks, Jacqueline. I'll be touching base with him as well.
Okay, thank you. Now, when is the next time that you had contact with the defendant's son?
It would have been the following morning of November 30th.
I'm going to show you what's already been admitted as 159. This is also an email. This is Tuesday, November 30th, 2021 at 8:05 a.m. And you were on this initial email, correct?
Yes.
Okay, could you tell us what the email says, please?
I know Jackie emailed you guys yesterday with some concerns about student in our first hour class. Today he is watching videos on his phone of a guy gunning down people. It looks like it's a movie scene and not security footage / a real event, but definitely still concerning when taking into account some of his other behaviors.
Okay, so this email was sent at 8:05 a.m. the morning of the shooting. What
Yes.
time did you receive it?
Well, I received it at 8:05. I believe I responded and saw it about 30 minutes later,
I'm sorry, that was a bad question. What, if you recall, what time did you actually read it?
around 8:30.
What was your reaction when you read the email?
My first reaction was, here we go again, of another conversation of you have to follow school rules. You have to be able to make decisions that aren't going to be detrimental to your time in class.
Okay. Now, did you receive, subsequently you met with that student, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, but before you did you receive another email regarding it?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay, well, did you receive another email regarding the defendant's son that day?
I did, but it was, what happened was a math teacher showed a picture to our dean of students, Nikki.
Okay, so I'm gonna show you 160, what's been admitted.
Okay.
This is from a teacher to you and Mr. Ejak.
Why don't I
who
hear
references the
anything?
dean of students.
Yes.
This was sent 9:32 a.m.
Do you not hear anything? Is it you? Because you guys hear stuff? I hear it. I want to make sure it's working right.
And this was a photograph
Finley.
of a drawing by the defendant's son.
Yes, this was sent after I already had defendant's son in my office.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit then. You looked at the first email around 8:30 in the morning, you said?
Yes.
Okay, and then what decision did you make and why?
I was on the phone when I saw the email, and upon hanging up the phone, I actually had Mr. Ejak come to my office.
Why is that?
Because he had been shown the math assignment, which is attached in the email currently on the screen.
Okay, and then tell me about that conversation.
He mentioned that Miss Morgan had shown him this picture. I said Ethan because I had his schedule up on my computer going to planning on talking with him.
Okay.
And then I made the decision as the counselor to go into his class because it is, when a counselor goes into a class, it could be for anything.
Okay. You said you had made a decision to speak with him. Was that because of the email you received before Mr. Ejak came and saw you, or another reason?
It was based on the email that I received.
Okay.
And then when I already had the information that there was an assignment of some sort going on.
Looks like we lost McKinley. She had some technical issues. The cat's name is PP because we don't have a better name for it. That's the cat's name.
Then it solidified that decision even further that I was going to talk to the student.
Okay. Did Mr. Ejak show that to you, or did you see it from the email?
I did not see it until I saw the assignment in person in the class.
In person.
He was shown a picture of it on the phone.
Who's he?
Mr. Ejak
Okay.
was shown a picture of it on a cell phone.
All right.
So I had not seen the assignment at that point.
All right. And you made the decision to retrieve the defendant's son from class and bring him to your office.
Yes, his classroom was actually
Just for
close
now,
to
can you hear us?
Yes.
my office when he was in that hour.
Okay.
And so I made the decision that as a counselor, it would be easier for me to walk in there because that's a pretty common thing. And then I ended up grabbing the assignment and walking back to my office with the student.
Okay. Now the first time you saw that assignment was in person in that classroom. That's correct?
I really didn't look at it much. I had it,
Okay.
but I wasn't studying it as we were walking back to my office.
Okay. This is exhibit 123. It's already been admitted. Now there's things drawn out in words added and certain words crossed out. Was this the assignment that you retrieved from the defendant's son's classroom?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And then you
This is a
brought
better
the
image of
defendant's
it.
son back to your office. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And then when would you say is the first time that you really took a look at this?
A couple minutes after being back into my office was when I really took a look at it.
Okay.
I went through the email I received with him
With
from
the
Allison.
defendant's son?
Yes,
Okay.
the email from Allison Karpinski, and then sought clarification on that email. And then after receiving the clarification from the student on that email, I then looked over the paper with the defendant's son.
Okay. And what was your thought when you saw this paper, Exhibit 123?
My first thought was I wanted to get from him what he was doing. His initial response was that it was a video game, that he liked drawing for video games and liked being able to create in that way. So I let him describe it in that way at first, and then I asked him to talk about some of the words that he had written down.
Okay. By this
Because
point,
those stuck out to me.
so by this point, have you seen the original?
We are not looking at homework. We're looking at schoolwork, and this was a math assignment, and he had originally drawn a bunch of stuff on here, and then he started crossing stuff out. The thoughts won't stop. He claimed it was a video game that he was designing or something, but that's when the parents got called down to the school the morning of the shooting, and this is why they were called down.
Drawing?
No,
Okay. So the words you were asking to explain were on this sheet here, 123.
that is correct.
Okay. So what words?
They
in
apparently have
particular
20
stood out?
witnesses, 20 to 25 witnesses.
I
Around
noticed the
7.
words of "I love my life so much," "the thoughts won't stop." I could make out "help me" under the crossed out part, and "harmless act." So it made me concerned that a student may potentially be suicidal or be displaying suicidal ideation.
Okay. So I take it you didn't take the defendant's son explanation at face value.
I didn't take it at face value. I accounted for it as his description, but I wanted to make sure that I was looking at as much of a picture as I could.
Okay. So when you reviewed this drawing, and again, this is before you saw the original drawing, did you decide then to ask more pointed questions?
I did. I really wanted to point out the words that were in the drawing because they were the easiest to see, and I wanted to get explanation for the words that wasn't just, it's a video game.
To be fair, okay, so I see everyone saying like he wrote down we're all friends. The original one didn't have that. It's kind of hard to see in this image, but you can see the gun. He wrote the word help me. He's got a bloody person, it looks like.
And a bullet
Blood,
that says blood everywhere.
blood everywhere. And the other words such as I love my life so much. We are all friends here. Harmless act was not written originally. When this is from, the teacher saw this, took a screenshot with her phone and emailed it out, and that's when the phone call happened. But by the time this witness got his hands on it, Ethan had crossed out a bunch of stuff and written a bunch of extra words. So it's so just to be fair, he's writing some bad stuff. Like this is the bad stuff here. And then all this like nice stuff, you know, I love my life so much. All this stuff was written after he was caught with it, after the teacher took a picture and took it from him or whatever, took a picture and started emailing it out. That's when the amendments to this document were made by Ethan. So.
Now, when you were speaking with the defendant in your office, did he have a mask on?
He did.
Okay, did you have a mask on?
I did.
Could you tell what his demeanor was at that point?
As best as you could, without complete facial expression. You still have tone of voice, you still have pace of speech.
At this point, you never actually interacted with him without a mask. Would that be right?
That is correct.
So when you ask more pointed questions, tell us what happened next and why.
His demeanor at first was very compliant. And as I started asking about the words and asking him to describe the words, his demeanor shifted towards more of a sad demeanor.
Okay.
He started sharing some things that had gone on in his life.
Like what?
He mentioned that a family dog had died recently. He mentioned that a grandparent had passed, that he was struggling with COVID and with school through COVID. And he mentioned that he had an argument with his parents about grades the night before.
Okay. Did he tell you that a friend of his had abruptly left the state?
He did mention that a friend of his had left. He didn't say the state, just wasn't attending school anymore.
Okay. Now, did you make a decision based upon your conversation with him to call Jennifer Crumbley?
I did.
Okay. You know, is that before or after you saw the
Arguing with
original?
parents about grades would suggest that his parents care enough to get on him about his grades, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Just my thoughts.
I don't remember.
Okay. So during this conversation with the defendant's son, did you have the opportunity to look at the original drawing?
I did receive the original drawing in an email, probably 25 to 30 minutes after returning from class.
So this is Exhibit 74. It's already been admitted. This is the original drawing that was shared with you?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what about this drawing causes you concern as well?
This drawing also gave me a lot of concerns of suicide. When I looked at it and I saw one body, when I looked at it and saw words that were internalized of the thoughts won't stop, help me, I started becoming concerned about the student's well-being and made the decision that I needed to involve parents.
Okay. So we had talked about checking with the teacher, checking with the student, calling the student in to the office, and a phone call to the parent. Now you decided to not just call the parent, but also call them in?
I did.
Okay. Now in the range of options with the counselor dealing with a parent, this is be the highest option, would that be right?
This would definitely be up there, yes.
Okay. So when was that decision made? How long, let me ask you this, how long were you with the defendant's son before you made that decision to call his mother?
To the best of my memory, at least 20 minutes.
Okay, so in that 20-minute time span, though, you made the decision to bring her in.
I did.
Okay. Tell us how that happened.
I asked, I actually told the student what I was going to do. I said, here's where we're at, and here's what I have to do. And I let him know that in this case, I need to call your parents and get them involved. because I want to make sure we get you help and support.
Okay.
I then gave student the option to choose which parent he wanted me to call. I do that quite frequently because it gives you an insight into the student a little bit of sometimes they might say, please don't call this parent. And student's response was it would be easier to get a hold of mom. So we called mom.
Okay. Now, did you tell him that you had concerns of suicidal ideation before you called Jennifer Crumbley?
I do not believe that I told him that, no.
And you indicated that you had seen in the fall of 2021 other aspects of suicidal ideation in other students?
Yes,
Okay. And you said even some students had even attempted suicide?
sadly, yes.
Okay. So you've had these sort of
He
meetings.
didn't
where you call
suspect
a parent
homicidal
before.
tendencies,
I
just
have.
suicidal.
And you said it was the defendant's son to call Jennifer Crumbley, or at least you'd have an easier time getting a hold of her?
Yeah, that was the statement. So I called mom, and I
Mom
believe,
being the defendant, Jennifer Crumbley?
yes, that is correct. And she was unable to answer that phone call. So I then asked,
Well, how do you know that? With the voicemail?
yes,
Okay.
she did not answer
She
that
did not
phone
answer.
call.
Okay.
And so I asked the student if it was okay for me to call his dad, and he said yes. I called dad, and it sounded like there was an answer, but it was also kind of like just dead air on the phone.
Okay.
So I hung up, and a few moments later, I received a phone call back from Jennifer Crumbley.
Okay. Now, if I told you that we had phone logs admitted into evidence that showed you left a message for Jennifer Crumbley at 9:24 a.m., would that sound right to you?
That sounds about right, yes.
Okay. And then it appeared from those same records that she had called you back at 9:27 a.m. Does that also sound right?
That sounds about right.
Okay. Tell us about the conversation between you and Jennifer Crumbley at 9:27 a.m.
I let her know that I had the student in my office and I had some concerns and was hoping that she would be able to come into the school.
Was that on your office line?
It was on my office line, yes.
Did you have the cell phone to your ear, or was it speakerphone?
At that point, it was to my ear. And I believe that mom asked to speak with Ethan, or the student. So I then put it on speakerphone and allowed them to talk to each other as well.
Okay, tell me about that, please.
Mom asked the student what was going on. And he didn't really have much, just kind of.
Okay. Did you tell the defendant that you had a drawing you were going to send her, the math worksheet?
I believe I did, yes. And then I.
And if you guys missed the voicemail from the day before, I think that puts a lot of context into this. So the voicemail that was left was super friendly. And it was, hi, this is Pam. We just had to talk with Ethan. He was looking at some bullets. We told him, he probably shouldn't do that at school. We understand you guys got a gun and you went shooting, and perfectly normal. We sent him back to class. There's no disciplinary action. You can call back if you have any questions. Have a good holiday. That was the statement, right? Or that was the message that was left, more or less. So that, and now the next call is this. Again, nobody's really taking it seriously. Yeah, it really does. You guys got to have this in context. They played it yesterday, but it really it puts this whole thing into context, I think, a little differently. Don't you agree, McKinley? If you're just listening to this cold, it's a little different.
Yeah, I would not have been nearly as concerned as I should have been.
Probably.
Okay.
To her cell phone.
And did she comment on that drawing, the math worksheet, to you while she was on the phone with you?
Not to my memory.
Yeah, straight put a link to to the voicemail video that I put up there.
You indicated to Jennifer Crumbley that you needed her to come into the office. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. Did she say, okay, I'll be right there? Or did she say something else?
She was hoping that dad would be able to do it, that it would be difficult for her to get there, to leave work, and that she worked approximately 30 minutes from the school.
Okay. And that was 9:27 a.m. And when she told you that it'd be difficult for her to come there, was that on speakerphone?
I do not remember.
Okay. So what was from the records, it shows about a 5-minute phone call between you and Jennifer Crumbley at that point in time. Were you left with the impression that she was on her way then, or that you had to find another parent?
I was left with the impression that she was going to try and contact Dad, to have Dad come. And then approximately 10 minutes later, she called again saying that she was unable to get a hold of Dad, and that she would be on her way.
Okay. She being Jennifer Crumbley.
Yes, that is correct.
All right. And you said you forwarded this Exhibit 74 to Jennifer Crumbley.
This was forwarded in the email.
Okay.
New poll I
And
just
this
started.
Exhibit 123 was also forwarded.
Is the testimony
That
of the
was,
counselor helping to
texted
establish the
to
defendant's guilt?
Next to Jennifer Crumbley's cell phone.
Yes.
Is this a good or bad time to break?
This would be fun.
Yeah, their lunch is here. So, Mr. Hopkins, you can't.
What did they get for lunch?
Well, the judge brings in something different every day.
Right?
She joked about making it herself, but I don't think she is.
They come back at-
So that they don't go to the cafeteria in the basement and meet with each other, during the trial.
Thank you, Judge.
They're free to leave, but she's encouraging not to.
I really want potato soup.
Potato soup sounds good. I have chili.
Vegan potato soup.
She looks so different from her mugshot, right? That's
She
2 years
she
ago.
looks so bad.
Okay, 1 o'clock?
Thank you, Judge.
Everyone's back at 1 o'clock. I have my next stream set up. I was going to try to go all the way through, but I spent my load early since the court was an hour late. And I want to make sure that you guys are all going to get redirected to day 3 afternoon. And we'll pick up live then. I'll send out invites day 3.
Sorry,
afternoon.
Whiskey.
What's that?
Upset that I don't eat meat.
You don't eat meat?
You know this. We've been through this, right? Yeah, no, I'm
So she doesn't
have
like
been-
Star Wars. She doesn't eat meat. She hates guns. She's extremely liberal, and she still thinks that this case is stupid.
yeah.
See how irrational she is, but she can get her head around this.
I mean,
All right. So, what are your thoughts thus far with what you've heard? Have you been watching first few days?
off and on, I've been watching. I did see the defense attorney at the end of Friday.
Yeah, that was kind of bad.
That was not great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think that this. My feelings about the case are still the same, regardless of the defense attorney's emotions.
Yeah. Do you think I mean, you're a criminal defense attorney, right?
Yes.
Defense lawyer is bad. Ian is saying, yeah. I agree that I don't like the defense attorney. I'm hoping that her points are still getting across to the jury in spite of her, which I'm concerned that they might not be.
Yeah, her questioning has been very confusing.
Runkle's been either watching my streams or reading my mind, because with the last witness from Friday, I said at the end of direct, we had more reasonable doubt than at the end of cross, because cross just muddied the water so bad that I felt more confident of an acquittal at the end of direct than cross.
Right.
Which is probably not how you should feel.
No, that's not that's not a good look for the defense attorney.
No, it's not at all.
That's right, Runkle. That's what I'm concerned of.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to sit in on the jury voir dire. I feel like the voir dire was good. At least I saw the first day of voir dire, and then it took them like another couple of hours on day 2 of jury voir dire to sit the jury. So I don't think there was a whole lot that changed in the interim. But it's the silent types that you're always a little weirded out about. The vocal ones that were vocal, anti-gun, believe all cops. These parents are horrible. Those people got booted right away. So you don't know who's sitting on the jury if they actually hold that belief, but you hope not. So we'll just see. Liberal is right wing in Austin. Are you right wing for Texas? you-
No. No, I'm pretty far liberal.
Yeah, and she even disagrees with these charges. That's why I like having
Yeah.
her on. Do you know how many are parents on the jury? So here's the jury makeup that I know of, based off of my notes and other things. 17 juror members, 10 of them are women, 7 are men. There's 1 black man. Most of them are parents, and they are okay with guns. Some of them have hunted, and they claim to not have an opinion regarding Jennifer one way or the other until they hear the evidence. The judge was really good addressing the jury on a lot of the stuff. I sat through most of the judge's voir dire, and the judge would even argue with people and be like, but you can't hold this position. You understand that, right? And then would boot people. So there's one woman that I saw that said that this case infuriates her. And apparently, just based off of her occupation, I believe she's still on the jury, which concerns me because I'm not clear what part of it infuriates her. And maybe they got into that on day 2 a little bit. The fact that there's a charge or the fact that there was a shooting. Many of them, however, agreed that teens can sneak things behind their parents' back and that it's almost impossible to know everything on a kid's phone, or be able to see everything on a kid's phone or anything that a kid does. So based off of that, I feel like should be a fair jury, but you never really know. There's always, like Bronco always says, there's always noise in the system. They are mostly
I wonder
middle-aged.
about that infuriated juror. That's really concerning.
I hear about this every time I hear about this case or think about this case. I get infuriated or I get something like that. I can't remember exactly what she said, but the way she said it, I thought at first that she was just mad of the whole situation that happened. And I thought, as a defense counsel, I'm going to use one of my peremptories and remove her. But apparently she's still
Right.
on. So for whatever reason, the defense didn't think that she was that scary.
I hope they didn't just mess up.
Yeah. Let's see. Guy, that's what uncivil reported. What's that? I'm not sure I understand this. Okay. McKinley thinks I hate her. Well,
No, I don't.
to be fair, Farrell, I mean, who do you like? All right, everyone, we're going to leave it there. I'm going to send you guys over to my next stream, which will start in approximately 47 minutes. So hit the notification so that you get a notification when it goes live. Otherwise, YouTube thing. But I'll see you over there after lunch. We will pick up with this counselor going forward, and we'll see what else he has to say. And that's about it. Sorry, I got to cue stuff up. I don't have anything queued up. Today's been
Becca
just
Lynn, it's all of them. All the jurors have to agree.
100%. Yeah, one juror could hold out, and it'll be a hung jury. But then
Mhm.
there'll be another trial because I don't think they're going to let this go. So, all right, y'all have a good day. McKinley, thanks for joining me for a little bit. You'll be
Thank
back
you.
this afternoon?
Yes.
All right, very good. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
When I was young, my daddy said